The ocean is full of mysteries and seems to be endless. Beneath the waves lie strange stories and creatures that are difficult to explain. Real stories that will make you wonder how much we really know about the depths of the sea. There are underwater ruins so perfectly formed that they don't seem natural. There are ships that have disappeared without a trace, and there is a huge, dark hole in the ocean that remains almost unexplored. These are not fairy tales or made-up stories. They really happened, and no one has solved them yet. Dive with us into some of the most enigmatic mysteries of the deep sea. Hidden in the depths of the vast South China Sea lies a place known as Dragon's Hole, the deepest blue hole on Earth. It plunges more than 1,000 feet into the unknown. Imagine yourself in the middle of the endless South China Sea, where the water stretches far and wide, sparkling in brilliant shades of turquoise under the bright sun. At first, everything seems calm, almost serene, but beneath this tranquil surface lies one of the most mysterious and dangerous places on our planet, the Dragon's Hole, also known locally as the Eye of the South China Sea. This immense underwater sinkhole has been shrouded in mystery for centuries. The South China Sea is a region steeped in legend and breathtaking beauty. It is home to remote islands, dangerous reefs, and strange underwater formations that seem almost otherworldly. Among them, the Dragon's Hole stands out, not only for its incredible size, but also for the countless myths and stories that have sprung up around it. Locals have long whispered that this dark peak is home to dragons and spirits, a place where the normal rules of nature do not seem to apply. Sailors feared its attraction, and fishermen warned each other to stay away. However, the Dragon's Hole is real. It is not just a piece of folklore, but a true geological wonder, an almost bottomless pit that sinks into the depths of the Earth's crust. The entrance to this hole is deceptively beautiful, a perfect circle of deep blue contrasting with the sparkling turquoise waters that surround it. But if you get too close, the calm quickly vanishes, as the currents surrounding the hole are unpredictable and powerful enough to drag even the most experienced sailors into its depths. For centuries, no one dared to explore it. It was a dark, unexplored void, an enigma that seemed to swallow both curiosity and courage. Then, in 2016, a group of Chinese researchers decided to tackle this ancient mystery. What they discovered would astonish and baffle scientists, leaving even more questions than answers about this extraordinary place. In 2016, the Dragon Hole finally attracted the attention of scientists eager to uncover its secrets. The discovery was triggered by satellite images revealing a huge circular formation in the middle of the sea. A research team armed with advanced sonar, diving equipment, and remote control vehicles set out to investigate. However, exploring such a place was no easy feat. The South China Sea is far from civilization and often dangerous. And the location of the Dragon Hole, near the disputed Paracel Islands, further complicated the mission. The first challenge was to get there. The research vessel anchored at a safe distance, and the team began setting up equipment to measure the depth and size of the hole. What they found was incredible. At nearly 900 feet deep, the Dragon Hole was officially the deepest blue hole ever discovered, surpassing even the famous Dean's Blue Hole in the Bahamas. The entrance to the hole was equally impressive at over 430 feet wide. It was as if nature itself had carved a perfect trapdoor in the ocean floor. But the real mystery lay beneath the surface. The team sent a remote-controlled vehicle into the depths, and the images it captured were both disturbing and mesmerizing, leaving scientists even more intrigued by the secrets Dragon Hole might hold. The descent began in clear, sunlit waters, where schools of fish swam around the entrance, seemingly unaware of the vast abyss below them. But as the RB, a remote-controlled vehicle, descended more than 1 meter, the light began to fade. At 100 m, the water turned completely black and the temperature dropped sharply. That was the point at which life, as we know it, ceased to exist. The researchers made a surprising discovery, a distinctive line known as the Osina, which marked a clear boundary between the oxygen-rich waters above and the lifeless depths below. This boundary acted as a barrier that prevented oxygen from circulating into the lower layers. As a result, the area beyond this point was completely devoid of oxygen, an environment so harsh that it was almost impossible for most forms of life to survive. It was like an alien world where survival seemed utterly impossible. Despite these difficulties, the team pressed on. The lights of the sub revealed jagged walls covered in layers of sediment that showed signs of the sinkhole's ancient origins. Unlike other blue holes, with smooth, sloping bottoms, the floor of Dragon Hole was uneven and fractured, suggesting the presence of hidden caves or tunnels. These features immediately raise questions. Were they natural formations, or could they have been shaped by geological phenomena, or even ancient civilizations? On the surface, researchers documented a variety of colorful marine life, including vibrant corals and unique fish species thriving in the oxygen-rich upper layers. But as the ROV descended, the images began to take on an eerie tone. The further it went, the more barren and lifeless the environment became. By the time they reached the bottom, an eerie silence had settled, broken only by the hum of the R's machinery. The Dragon's Hole was not just a sinkhole. It was a vertical time capsule, a place that had probably remained untouched for thousands, if not millions, of years. Its unique structure and conditions made it a treasure trove for scientists. The team collected water and sediment samples in the hope of analyzing them for clues about the hole's history and its role in the South China Sea ecosystem. However, despite all their discoveries, the Dragon Hole remained shrouded in mystery. Its great depth and inaccessibility left many questions unanswered. There could be life forms yet to be discovered hidden in its darkest corners. Were there ancient artifacts or geological secrets buried beneath the sediment? The team left with more questions than answers, and Dragon Hall continued to guard its secrets. A silent giant in the heart of the sea, Dragon Hall is a place that fuels curiosity and speculation. Its enormous size and mysterious nature have inspired theories ranging from the scientific to the supernatural, adding to its appeal. One of the most debated scientific theories is that the Dragon Hole could serve as a natural archive and preserve important information about the history of the Earth. Blue holes like Dragon Hole are often created during periods of glaciation when sea levels were much lower. Over time, as water levels rose, these deep vertical sinkholes flooded, trapping layers of sediment and microorganisms along their walls. By studying these layers, scientists can uncover secrets about ancient climates, ocean changes, and even mass extinctions. In other words, the Dragon Hole could serve as a record of Earth's past, written in the language of stone and sediment. But there's more. The unique boundary between the oxygen-rich and oxygen-poor water layers in Dragon Hole creates an environment that is rare on Earth. Researchers believe that these conditions may resemble those of ancient oceans billions of years ago when life was just beginning to form on Earth. Could the Dragon Hole harbor microorganisms or chemical compounds that reveal clues about the origins of life? It's an exciting possibility that could change our understanding of the planet's history. There are also geological mysteries to consider. The uneven ground of Dragon Hole, with its hidden irregularities and cracks, has led some to wonder if it could be connected to a larger underground network. Are there tunnels or caverns leading from this sinkhole and deep into the Earth's crust? If so, what could contain these spaces? Ancient fossils, rare minerals, or even signs of seismic activity that could shed light on the geological history of the region. Of course, not all theories are strictly scientific. The Dragon Hole has acquired legendary status among local fishermen, giving rise to countless myths and stories. Some believe it is a portal to another world, a gateway where the physical and spiritual realms meet. Others claim it is cursed, a place where ships and even people disappear without a trace. Although these stories may seem far-fetched, they reflect a deep respect and fear of the unknown. One particularly intriguing idea is that the Dragon's Hole may have been important to ancient sailors. The South China Sea has been an important trade route for many centuries, and some wonder if this hole was marked on ancient maps as a landmark or even a warning. It could have been a sacred place, a ritual for those who sailed these dangerous waters, or it could be related to the lost city of Lemuria, the mythical counterpart of Atlantis. Although there is no concrete evidence to support these ideas, they add another layer of mystery to an already enigmatic place. Then there is the question of whether the Dragon Hole has claimed lives. Local legends tell of fishermen who disappeared after getting too close to the hole and their boats were swallowed up by its powerful currents. Although there is no definitive proof of these stories, the dangers of the South China Sea are well known. Sudden storms, unpredictable tides, and even the magnetic pull of the area can quickly turn a simple fishing trip into a deadly encounter. Reality or fiction, these stories have only served to heighten the hole's eerie reputation. Despite all the theories and stories, the Dragon Hole remains a true mystery. For every question scientists answer, new ones seem to arise, reminding us how little we know about the oceans. The Dragon Hole is a symbol of the vast, unexplored world that lies beneath the waves. At nearly 1,000 feet deep, it is a testament to the power and mystery of nature. This vertical frontier challenges our understanding of the Earth. Today, Dragon Hole remains largely unexplored. The logistical and technological challenges of studying such a remote and extreme environment mean that much of its history remains untold. Even the deepest investments and most advanced equipment have barely scratched the surface of what lies beneath. What could be waiting in the unexplored crevices of the seafloor? There could be undiscovered life forms that have adapted to the harsh conditions of the anoxic depths. Or perhaps there are geological phenomena we have never encountered before. The possibilities are endless. Some scientists believe that blue holes, such as the Dragon Hole, could be part of a vast hidden network of underwater sinkholes, all connected by secret tunnels. If this theory is true, it could change our understanding of many things from marine life to how water and nutrients move through the ocean. It could even offer new perspectives for underwater exploration. But the Dragon Hole isn't just important for what we can learn from it. It's also important for how it makes us feel. Standing at the edge of such a deep, dark hole, one can't help but feel a sense of awe and humility. It's a place where human knowledge reaches its limits, where even the most sophisticated technology struggles to uncover the secrets hidden in the shadows. For the people who live nearby, the Dragon Hole is more than just a place of scientific interest. It is something they deeply respect and even fear. This natural wonder has been a source of wonder for generations. For them, it is not just a hole in the ocean floor. It is a living symbol of the unknown. It reminds them that some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved. As scientists continue to explore the Dragon Hole, one thing is certain. Its mystery will never lose its power to captivate us. Whether it is a geological time capsule, a gateway to another world, or simply one of nature's most awe-inspiring wonders, the Dragon Hole reminds us how much we still have to understand. In a world where so many things have already been mapped and measured, it is a place that still refuses to be explained. And so the Dragon Hole remains still and silent, keeping its secrets deep within. It challenges us to keep asking questions, to keep exploring, and to remember that no matter how much we think we know, there is always more to discover. Between the sunny shores of Miami, the mysterious island of Bermuda, and the tropical land of Puerto Rico lies a vast expanse of ocean that at first glance appears completely normal. But for many years, this area has aroused curiosity, fear, and countless wild theories. This strange region is called the Bermuda Triangle, although some also call it the Triangle. It covers a huge part of the Atlantic Ocean, about 500,000 square kilometers. It is such a large area that several countries could easily fit inside it. But what makes the Bermuda Triangle so famous is not its size or location, but what seems to happen there. For decades, ships, planes, and their occupants have disappeared without a trace. There are no distress calls, no floating debris, and no bodies are found. It is as if the ships and their crews have vanished into thin air. The silence that follows is eerie and deeply disturbing. The history of the Bermuda Triangle, as we know it today, began to take shape in the 1950s, but the strange events in these waters date back much further. One of the first known disappearances occurred in the year 1800. A U.S. Navy ship called the USS Pickering, with 90 men on board, was sailing from the Caribbean to Delaware. Then it disappeared. Despite extensive search efforts, not a single piece of the ship was ever found. The fate of the 90 sailors on board remains a mystery to this day. However, the event that really put the Bermuda Triangle in the spotlight occurred in December 1945. It was the disappearance of a group of aircraft known as Flight 19. That day began like any other. 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers took off from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on a routine training flight over the Atlantic Ocean. The lead pilot was Lieutenant Charles Taylor, an experienced aviator. The other 14 men were mostly still in training. Everything seemed normal until the pilots began reporting strange problems. Lieutenant Taylor contacted the control tower. Sounded confused. He said his compasses had stopped working and that nothing looked familiar. "We don't know which way is west. Everything is wrong," he said. Even the ocean below them did not look as it should. These were some of the last clear messages received from Flight 19. As the hours passed, the pilot's radio transmissions became increasingly garbled and difficult to understand. Taylor believed they were flying over the Florida Keys, but in reality, they were probably much further east, lost over the open Atlantic. The control tower tried everything to bring them back safely, but one by one, the 5 planes disappeared. 14 men were missing, and the nightmare was not over. A large rescue plane, a Martin Mariner seaplane, was sent to look for them, but shortly after takeoff, it also disappeared along with its crew of 13. That meant that 27 men had disappeared in a single day without any trace being found. In the years that followed, more and more ships and planes were lost in the Bermuda Triangle. In February 1963, the SS Marine Sulphur Queen, an oil tanker carrying molten sulfur, disappeared with 39 people on board. Not even an oil slick remained. In 1967, a yacht named Witchcraft disappeared a mile off the coast of Miami. It was carrying life jackets, flares, and emergency equipment. A Coast Guard vessel arrived on the scene just 19 minutes after the distress call, but no trace of the yacht or its passengers was found. Stories like these, along with dozens of others, have kept the legend of the Bermuda Triangle alive. Many people have tried to explain what happens in this strange stretch of sea. Some believe in science, others believe in the supernatural. Some theories are reasonable, while others seem straight out of a science fiction movie. One of the most popular natural explanations has to do with methane hydrates. These are frozen gases trapped under the ocean floor. If a large bubble of methane were suddenly released, the water could lose density and cause a ship to sink without warning. The ship could sink so quickly that no one would have time to send a signal. And if the methane rises into the air, it could cause aircraft engines to fail or even explode. Although this theory is interesting, scientists have not yet found solid evidence that it actually caused any of the disappearances. Others say the answer could be much simpler. The Gulf Stream, a powerful ocean current, flows right through the Bermuda Triangle. It moves fast enough to sweep away debris, oil slicks, and even entire ships, making it difficult to search for clues. The Puerto Rico Trench is one of the deepest places in the ocean and is so vast and deep that it could easily swallow pieces of shipwrecks forever. This area is also known for its violent weather. Powerful storms and hurricanes often occur, making it a dangerous place for sailors and pilots. The sky can turn wild in an instant, and the sea can become a raging monster without warning. One strange weather phenomenon that occurs here is the waterspout, a spinning column of wind similar to a tornado that forms over the ocean. These waterspouts can be strong enough to destroy small boats and even damage larger ships. Human error is also a factor to consider. The Bermuda Triangle is full of hidden dangers, such as rocky coastlines and underwater reefs, which have caused many shipwrecks throughout history. For aircraft flying over the region, the challenges are different but just as serious. Some pilots have reported that their compasses start acting strangely, possibly due to the magnetic forces in the area. Sudden storms can form out of nowhere with no land in sight. Pilots can become visually confused, especially when everything below them looks the same, an endless ocean. Even so, all these natural and human factors do not fully explain why so many ships and planes disappear without a trace. Often there are no distress calls, no signs of trouble, just silence. And before disappearing, some pilots and ship captains have reported strange problems with their electronic equipment. Radios stop working, navigation instruments go haywire, and then nothing. Based on these strange clues, people have come up with some wild and fascinating theories. Some scientists and researchers believe that the Bermuda Triangle could have strange tiers in space and time, wormholes or time portals that could suck ships and planes into other places or even other dimensions. Some pilots say their instruments went haywire, that the sea looked strange, or that the sky changed color before they lost contact. Another idea is that the area has powerful electromagnetic forces. Interestingly, this region is one of the few places on Earth where magnetic north and true north align perfectly. This could disrupt a ship's compass or an airplane's navigation system and cause them to become completely lost. Then there are the even more mysterious theories. Some believe that extraterrestrials could be involved. They suggest that the Bermuda Triangle is home to an underwater alien base or a portal used to collect human technology and even human beings. They point to stories of strange lights seen in the sky or strange flying objects sighted just before a plane disappears. An even more far-fetched idea links the triangle to the lost city of Atlantis. According to this theory, the ancient Atlanteans had advanced technology that still works today, even though their civilization disappeared thousands of years ago. Some say that huge glass pyramids have been seen at the bottom of the ocean in the area, believed to be part of a powerful energy system that could affect ships and planes passing through. What makes all this even more eerie is that many of these disappearances occurred in calm weather, with qualified and experienced crews and in well-maintained vessels. There are no signs of struggle or distress signals, just a sudden disappearance, as if something had struck too quickly or somehow prevented anyone from sending a warning. But despite all the legends and strange stories, official bodies remain skeptical. The U.S. Coast Guard and major insurance companies do not consider the Bermuda Triangle to be particularly dangerous. Experts who study the figures say that considering how many ships and planes pass through the region, the number of accidents is not really higher than in any other busy area of the ocean. In fact, Lloyd's of London, one of the world's oldest and most reliable marine insurers, does not charge higher rates to ships traveling through the Bermuda Triangle. For them, the area is no more dangerous than any other. For this reason, many skeptics argue that the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle owes more to fascinating stories and the human imagination than to any real danger. Over the years, many pilots and ship captains have shared strange and mysterious stories about their experiences traveling through the area known as the Bermuda Triangle. Some of them claim that their compasses suddenly began spinning out of control, making it impossible to know which direction they were heading. Others say that all their electronic equipment stopped working at exactly the same time. There are even stories of thick, eerie fogs appearing out of nowhere and enveloping everything in a ghostly haze. But perhaps most baffling of all are the stories in which time itself seems to behave strangely. Journeys that should have taken hours end in a matter of minutes, or trips that take much longer than they should based on the usual speed and distance. One of the best-known stories is that of a man named Bruce Jernon. In 1970, he was flying his small plane over the Bermuda Triangle when something very unusual happened. According to Bruce, he and his father were flying on a clear day when they entered a strange tunnel-shaped cloud. Inside the tunnel, the world seemed to change. He said it felt as if the usual rules of time and space no longer applied. Everything around him turned gray and blurry, and his instruments began to malfunction. When they finally flew out of the cloud, Bruce was stunned. He realized that he had traveled the distance of a 30-minute flight in just a few minutes and was nowhere near where he was supposed to be. Somehow, the plane had jumped far ahead of schedule, as if an invisible force had dragged it through space. Sailors tell similar stories. Some claim that sudden storms have appeared out of nowhere and disappeared just as quickly, as if out of a dream. Others claim to have seen strange lights over the ocean that disappeared without a trace. These stories may seem like something out of a science fiction novel, and some people think they're the result of confusion or error. But what makes them interesting is the frequency with which the same details appear in stories told by people who never met and had no way of sharing their experiences. The U.S. Navy officially states that the Bermuda Triangle is no more dangerous than any other part of the ocean. According to them, any risk in the area is no greater than the usual risks associated with traveling on the open sea. However, some documents that have been made public show that the Navy has studied the strange magnetic activity in the region. There are also records of Navy ships experiencing mysterious problems with their instruments when passing through these waters. The most reasonable way to think about the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle might be to accept that many different things could be happening at once. The unique shape of the area, its unpredictable weather, the possibility of equipment failure, human error, and perhaps even natural forces we have yet to discover. All of this could come together to create the perfect recipe for strange and unexplained events. The possibility of equipment failure, human error, and perhaps even natural forces we have not yet discovered. All of these could come together to create the perfect recipe for strange and unexplained events. What we do know for sure is that the Bermuda Triangle has captivated people's imaginations for many years. It remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of modern times. Even now, in an age when satellites monitor the entire planet and GPS can find almost any location down to the last meter, the triangle reminds us that there are still places in the world where our machines can fail and people can disappear without a trace. Someday, science may uncover the truth about what really happens in the Bermuda Triangle. It may turn out to be nothing more than a mixture of natural hazards and human error misinterpreted and exaggerated over many years. Or perhaps we will discover that there is something truly unusual about those waters, something we do not yet understand. Until that day comes, the Bermuda Triangle remains a chilling reminder. It shows us that even with all our modern technology, there are still parts of the earth where mystery reigns and where the power of the sea and the sky can still humble us. Imagine a city full of energy, with bustling streets filled with merchants, imposing temples reaching up to the sky, and ships sailing smoothly through a network of canals. Then, one day, it disappears swallowed by the sea and lost in time for over 1,000 years. This is the story of Heraklion, an ancient city on the coast of Egypt. For centuries, its existence was debated. Was it real, or was just a story passed down from generation to generation? But in 2000, archaeologists made an amazing discovery. The city of Heraklion was not only real, but had been lying beneath the Mediterranean Sea all this time. How did it get there? What secrets does it hold? What can we learn from its history? About the delicate balance between civilization and nature? The story of Heraklion begins as a whisper in the ancient records of history. For centuries, it was more myth than reality, mentioned by Greek historians such as Herodotus. They described a prosperous city at the mouth of the Nile, a bustling center of trade and culture. Known by two names, Tanis to the Egyptians and Heraklion to the Greeks, this city was said to be of great importance. According to these accounts, Heraclea was a gateway to Egypt, where Mediterranean merchants docked their ships, paid tribute to the gods, and prepared for their journey to the great kingdom of the afterlife. Heraclea was not just any city. It was a place of incredible wealth and power, filled with grand temples, lively markets, and bustling ports. One of the most famous monuments was a huge temple dedicated to Ammonius Garp, a god worshipped by both Egyptians and Greeks. Herodotus claimed that this temple was the heart of the city, where priests performed sacred rituals and citizens gathered to honor their gods. But even when Heracleion flourished, it was shrouded in mystery. Ancient texts spoke of a city built on unstable ground, where the earth itself seemed to tremble under the weight of its magnificent buildings. Some mentioned floods and rising waters that threatened to engulf the city. Others described earthquakes that shook the Nile Delta, sending shock waves through the city's temples and houses. These stories of instability seemed to warn of a tragic end. By the Middle Ages, Heracleion had disappeared. Its name vanished from maps. Its streets were forgotten. For centuries, scholars debated whether it had ever existed. Some believed it was a myth, a tale woven by ancient storytellers. Others maintained that it had been destroyed by natural disasters or buried under layers of silt carried by the Nile. Then there was the sea. Over the years, the Mediterranean had gradually encroached on the Egyptian coast. If Cleion had ever existed, it was now buried beneath the waves. Some believe that it might now lie hidden beneath the waves, a lost city drowned by the ocean. However, in the absence of clear evidence, the story of Heracleion remained a mystery, locked in the past until the dawn of the 21st century. In the year 2000, a French underwater archaeologist named Frank Godiot embarked on a risky mission to discover the hidden mysteries of Egypt's ancient coastline. Godiot and his team, equipped with state-of-the-art sonar and magnetic imaging technology, set out to map the seabed near the city of Alexandria. Their mission was ambitious, to discover something that might not even exist. However, what they found would change history forever. Beneath 9 meters of murky water, buried under layers of silt and sand, lay the ruins of Heracleion. It was real, and its discovery was more incredible than anyone could have imagined. Imagine descending into the depths of the Mediterranean Sea. As you descend, the sunlight fades and the water becomes colder and darker. Visibility is poor, and the seabed is hidden under thick layers of mud and debris. Then, just when all hope seems lost, something comes into view, a glimpse of ancient ruins, what were once great structures, now resting on the ocean floor, waiting to be rediscovered. 4. Frank Godiot and his team. The discovery of Heracleion was like stepping into a time machine. As they carefully excavated the site, the image of this long-lost city began to take shape. The first objects they uncovered were enormous statues. Despite having been submerged for centuries, many of these statues were still standing with remarkable detail. Some were over 4 m tall, their stone faces staring silently out toward the dark waters. These statues, carved from granite, had once adorned the city's temples and public spaces. Now they lie scattered across the seabed, knocked down by the force that destroyed the city. The team also discovered evidence of Heracleion's extensive canal system. Unlike most ancient cities, Heracleion was not built on dry land, but on a series of islands connected by canals, like the city of Venice. These canals allowed ships to navigate the city, bringing goods from across the Mediterranean and beyond. Stone anchors, boat fragments, and mooring rings found at the site indicated the city's important role as a bustling port, a place where trade and travel converged. One of the most notable discoveries was the remains of the temple of Ammonius Herb, the spiritual center of the city. This temple had been a sacred place for both Egyptians and Greeks, where pilgrims came to honor the gods before embarking on their journeys. Archaeologists uncovered towering columns, intricate carvings, and ceremonial objects such as gold amulets and offerings. The scale and craftsmanship of the temple were astonishing and demonstrated the wealth and religious importance of Heracleion. But Heracleion was not only a religious center, it was also a thriving commercial hub. Among the ruins, the team found coins, weights, and logbooks, evidence of the city's bustling economy. These artifacts revealed that Heracleon had been a commercial crossroads where goods such as gold, spices, and textiles circulated between Egypt and the Mediterranean world. The city's markets must have been a vibrant spectacle, teeming with merchants and goods from distant lands. Perhaps most surprising of all were the remains of everyday life. Archaeologists uncovered household objects such as pottery, tools, and even food containers preserved in the sediment that had buried the city. These objects offered a glimpse into the lives of the people of Heracleon, the fishermen, merchants, and families who lived in this bustling, vibrant city. As archaeologists continued their work, they uncovered more clues about the city's downfall. The ruins showed signs of subsidence, meaning that the ground beneath the city had gradually sunk over time. Combined with rising sea levels and coastal displacement, this process may have caused the city to slowly sink into the sea. Some evidence suggests that a catastrophic event, such as an earthquake or tsunami, could have dealt the final blow, causing Heracleon to disappear beneath the waves. However, despite all the answers the ruins provided, many questions remained unanswered. What was the exact cause of the city's sinking? How did its inhabitants react when the waters rose around them? And what other secrets still lie beneath the seabed, waiting to be revealed? The rediscovery of Heracleon was not just an archaeological triumph. It was a window into the past, a powerful reminder of how civilizations can rise and fall at the mercy of the forces of nature. In reconstructing the history of this lost city, Frank Goddio and his team revealed not only its greatness, but also its vulnerability, a confirmation of the fragile balance between human ambition and the relentless power of the natural world. The rediscovery of Heracleon provided amazing facts about its existence, but it also sparked widespread speculation about how such an important city could have disappeared beneath the waves. Although archaeological evidence provides some clues, the precise events that led to the fall of Heracleon remain a mystery. One of the most widely accepted explanations for the fall of Heracleon is that it sank into the soft, waterlogged ground of the Nile Delta, where the city was built. The delta is made up of unstable sediments that are not the best foundation for heavy stone buildings. Over time, the weight of the city's structures, combined with the natural settling of the soil, may have caused the ground to slowly sink. Archaeologists have found clear signs of this sinking at the site, such as sloping foundations and noise walls. At first, this gradual sinking would have been almost impossible to notice, but over the decades, it caused more and more of the city to disappear beneath the water. Another factor contributing to the city's decline was the rise of the Mediterranean Sea. Between the height of Heracleon's glory and its final fall, the sea level rose significantly in the region. This slow but unstoppable rise in water would have flooded the lower areas of the city and eroded its infrastructure, making it more vulnerable to disasters. However, some researchers believe that Heracleon did not simply disappear due to the sinking of the land and the rising waters. They think that the city may have been hit by a catastrophic event such as an earthquake or tsunami. The eastern Mediterranean is known for its seismic activity, and ancient records mention powerful earthquakes that shook the region. A major earthquake could have further weakened the already unstable ground beneath Heracleon, causing buildings to collapse and parts of the city to sink. Another possibility is tsunamis. An underwater earthquake could have displaced enough water to create giant waves, flooding the city and sweeping away its structures. Similar tsunami deposits have been found elsewhere in the Mediterranean, so it is possible that Heracleon was one of the cities affected by such a disaster. Beyond natural causes, there are other more unusual theories. Heracleon was an important religious and cultural center, which has led some to suggest that its destruction may have had a spiritual or divine reason. Ancient inscriptions discovered at the site mention rituals and offerings made to appease the gods, possibly to prevent disasters. Could the destruction of a city be considered divine punishment? Although there is no direct evidence to support this theory, it certainly adds a fascinating layer to the story. Another mystery surrounding Heracleon is why it disappeared from history after its sinking. For over 1,000 years, the city fell into oblivion and its memory faded. It was simply because the city was no longer accessible, or there may have been an intentional effort to erase it from historical records. Some scholars believe that the fall of Heracleion coincided with changes in political or religious power that caused other cities, such as Alexandria, to overshadow its history. The fact that it took more than 1,000 years to rediscover the city raises important questions about how easily history can be lost and how much of it may still be buried under the sea. Perhaps the most intriguing mystery is what we still don't know about Heracleion. The underwater ruins cover an area of more than 40 square miles, and much of it remains unexplored. What secrets could still be hidden among the mud and silt? There could be artifacts, inscriptions, or even entire sections of the city waiting to be discovered. The possibilities are endless, and each new discovery could change everything we know about this ancient metropolis. The rediscovery of Heracleion was not just an archaeological achievement, it was a moment that brought the past back to life. For over 1,000 years, the city had remained buried under layers of sediment and water, reduced to little more than a legend. But thanks to Frank Goddio and his team, Heracleion has resurfaced, offering us a glimpse of a lost world. The ruins themselves are a testament to the skill and resilience of the people who built them. Although submerged for centuries, many of Heracleion's structures and artifacts are surprisingly well preserved. The huge statues of gods and pharaohs, carved from granite, still display the fine details of their original designs. Inscriptions on stone tablets and stelae give us a glimpse into the city's religious practices and how it was governed. Gold amulets and ceremonial objects reveal the city's wealth and importance in the culture of the time. However, discovering Heracleion is not just about finding ancient artifacts, but also the stories they reveal. The layout of the city with its canals, ports, and temples shows a society deeply connected to both the natural and spiritual worlds. The discovery of navigation records and trade weights highlights Heracleion's crucial role as a link between Egypt and the Mediterranean, a place where different cultures met and goods circulated freely. Each artifact, from the grandest statue to the smallest piece of pottery, offers a glimpse into the lives of the people who once lived there. The rediscovery of Heraclea has also drawn attention to underwater archaeology. The techniques used to locate and excavate the city, such as sonar mapping, magnetic imaging, and careful underwater excavation, have set new standard for the exploration of submerged sites. Today, Heracleion is considered one of the most important underwater discoveries of the 21st century, inspiring efforts to find other lost cities and civilizations. But the story of Heracleion is not just about the past. It also reminds us how fragile human civilizations can be. The same forces that caused the city to sink, rising sea levels, unstable ground, and natural disasters, continue to affect us today. As we face the challenges of climate change and environmental instability, the rise and fall of Heracleion serve as a warning about the delicate balance between human ambition and the power of nature. Today, the ruins of Heracleion remain underwater, carefully protected as an archaeological site. Divers continue to explore its depths, discovering new pieces of its history every year. For those who visit the site or view its artifacts in museums, Heracleion is more than just a lost city. It is a symbol of discovery, resilience, and the enduring mystery of human history. As we leave the waters of Heracleion behind, one question remains. What other lost worlds lie beneath the sea, waiting to be discovered? The story of Heracleion reminds us that history is always alive, buried in the depths of the earth and the oceans, waiting for someone to bring it to light. Hidden beneath calm blue waters lies the ancient city of Pablo Petri, a place lost in time but not in legend. Unlike the mythical island of Atlantis that people have searched for but never found, Pablo Petri is very real and truly special. This sunken city is even older than the pyramids of Egypt. In fact, it is the oldest underwater city ever discovered. Even after more than 5,000 years, much of it still stands. Streets, buildings, open courtyards, all perfectly preserved, it offers us a unique and amazing opportunity to glimpse a world that flourished long, long ago. In the southern part of Greece, where the rugged coastline meets the wide, sparkling waters of the Mediterranean, there's a place called the Peloponnese Peninsula. This land has always been steeped in history, tales of gods and heroes, great wars, and ancient ruins. For thousands of years, it has been a place where history and legend intertwine, but not all of its stories unfold on dry land. Beneath the surface of the Laconian Gulf, hidden beneath the sea for thousands of years, lies one of the most astonishing archaeological finds of modern times, the ancient city of Pablo Petri. For generations, local fishermen told quiet stories about strange shapes they sometimes saw beneath the crystal-clear water. Some said they glimpsed stone walls or shadows that looked like buildings. But in Greece, a land full of ruins, this didn't seem unusual. People didn't pay much attention. After all, there were ruins everywhere. Who would have thought that these shadows were actually the remains of a city even older than classical Greece? A city that existed before the Great Pyramids were built. Everything changed in 1967. That year, a British oceanographer named Nicholas Fleming was conducting underwater research near a small beach called Pablo Petri. At that time, underwater archaeology was in its infancy. Divers had basic equipment and did not have advanced technology such as sonar or three-dimensional mapping. Fleming was not looking for a lost city. He was simply studying the seabed. But as he dived into shallow waters near the beach, he saw something strange. A few meters below the surface, he saw shapes that did not look natural. They looked man-made, like walls, roads, and buildings. Fleming had accidentally stumbled upon what appeared to be the skeleton of an ancient city long since swallowed by the sea. It was an incredible discovery, but the true significance of what he had found did not become clear until the following year. In 1968, a team of archaeologists from Cambridge University arrived to study the site more closely. As they began their work, they realized that this was not just a handful of ruins, but an entire city carefully designed and surprisingly well preserved. What surprised them even more was the age of the site. At first, they thought it dated back to around 1000 BC to the late Bronze Age. But as they dug deeper and learned more, they discovered something even more incredible. Pablo Petri's city was much, much older. Their studies revealed that Pablo Petri was built at least 3,000 years before the Common Era. This meant that the city was over 5,000 years old, making it the oldest underwater city in the world. What makes Pablo Petri even more extraordinary is how well it has been preserved. Unlike other ancient cities that have been worn down by time, looted, or destroyed by human activity. Protected by the sea, its streets, buildings, and tombs remain almost intact, just as they were thousands of years ago. This offers us a rare and fascinating glimpse into a world long lost to history. Diving beneath the waters of Pablo Petri is like stepping into a time machine. Just 3 or 4 meters below the surface, the city unfolds before you with stunning clarity. Its layout remains as if the people had left only recently, offering archaeologists and divers an otherworldly experience. Walking through streets that have not felt human footsteps in over 5,000 years is nothing short of amazing. The city itself is very well organized, demonstrating the brilliance of its builders. Its narrow, straight streets intersect at right angles, forming a grid pattern that modern urban planners would recognize. At the heart of Pablo Petri is a central square, a vast open space that may have served as a market or gathering place. Around the square are clusters of buildings, some small and simple, probably houses or workshops, while others are larger and more complex, possibly for public or administrative purposes. Archaeologists have discovered at least 15 structures, although they believe that many more remain hidden beneath layers of sand and sediment. These buildings were not constructed at random. but were carefully planned with knowledge of engineering and design. Thick stone walls, some several meters thick, delimit each structure. Inside are the remains of homes, storage spaces, and even drainage systems, demonstrating that this ancient society valued sanitation and resource management. The most captivating discoveries are the burials scattered throughout the city. These tombs filled with pottery, tools, and other artifacts give us insight into the daily lives of the inhabitants, their diet, their crafts, and even their artistic expressions. Especially valuable is the pottery decorated with detailed motifs and symbols. It reveals much about the culture and beliefs of the people and hints at connections with other civilizations. Some designs suggest exchanges with distant lands, indicating that Pablo Petrie was part of a wider trading network during the Bronze Age. But Pablo Petrie was not just a city of houses and markets. It was a bustling maritime center. The discovery of large stone anchors and slipways for launching boats points to a society deeply connected to the sea. Its location in a protected bay with easy access to the Mediterranean made it an ideal port for trade. Archaeologists believe that Pablo Petrie played a crucial role in the exchange of goods, ideas, and culture during the Bronze Age, acting as a link between the civilizations of the Aegean, the Near East, and beyond. As research progresses, more evidence of this maritime activity has been uncovered. The tools and artifacts found in the city suggest that its inhabitants were skilled sailors and shipbuilders, capable of navigating the unpredictable waters of the Mediterranean. The city's proximity to natural resources, such as wood for shipbuilding and fertile land for agriculture, would have made it a thriving center of trade and industry. However, despite its advanced design and prosperity, Pablo Petrie was not immune to the forces of nature. Its ideal location for trade also made it vulnerable to the element on which it depended, the sea. Over time, rising water levels and geological activity engulfed the city, submerging it beneath the waves. Today, as we walk through the submerged ruins of Pablo Petrie, it is easy to imagine the vibrant life that once filled its streets. Children playing in the square, merchants shouting prices, and sailors preparing for long voyages. It was a city that lived and breathed, thriving on the edge of the known world. However, like so many other ancient civilizations, it was eventually claimed by the forces of nature, leaving behind only whispers of its history. Pablo Petrie is more than a city. It is a time capsule, a snapshot of the Bronze Age, frozen in time, claimed by the forces of nature, leaving behind only whispers of its history. Pablo Petrie is more than a city. It is a time capsule, a snapshot of the Bronze Age, frozen beneath the sea. Its discovery has reshaped our understanding of ancient history, offering us a rare and priceless glimpse into a world lost in the depths. But even as we discover more about Pablo Petrie, many questions remain unanswered. Who built this city? What role did it play in the ancient world? And what secrets still lie buried beneath the sand and water? The discovery of Pablo Petrie has given archaeologists an unprecedented opportunity to explore the Bronze Age. The city's streets, buildings, and artifacts offer a vivid picture of a prosperous and interconnected society. However, despite all that has been learned, questions remain about its ultimate fate. Why did such a well-built and advanced city for its time disappear beneath the waves? The answers remain as elusive as the city itself, at the center of the mystery surrounding Pablo Petrie. One of the most widely accepted ideas about what happened to Pablo Petrie is that it was destroyed by natural forces beyond its control. The Laconian Gulf area, where Pablo Petrie was located, is known for its geological instability. Earthquakes are frequent, and the area's proximity to tectonic faults means that even small movements of the Earth can have enormous consequences. A strong earthquake could have caused parts of the city to collapse, making buildings unstable and forcing people to abandon their homes. Over time, the Earth may have slowly subsided due to repeated earthquakes, leaving Pablo Petrie exposed to rising sea levels. Another factor that probably played a role was sea level rise at the end of the Bronze Age. Land evidence shows that the Mediterranean Sea rose slowly during this period, but this was not a gradual process over many years, but rather a series of sudden floods, probably caused by climate change. Pablo Petrie, which was just above sea level, may have been particularly vulnerable. Its inhabitants may have tried to protect the city by building dikes or raising their houses, but these efforts would have been unable to withstand the unstoppable rise of the waters. There is also a theory that it was a combination of earthquakes and floods that caused the city to fall. Imagine a busy port city suddenly shaken by a strong earthquake. Buildings collapse, the ground shifts, and the coast begins to sink. Soon, rising waters flood the city, leaving only ruins behind. Over time, sand and dirt cover the remains, preserving them for thousands of years until they are rediscovered by modern archaeologists. But the mystery of how Pablo Petrie was lost is only part of the story. The real question is, why did it disappear? What was Pablo Petrie's role in the ancient world? And what can its fate teach us about the people who live there? Some archaeologists believe that Pablo Petrie was an important part of the Minoan civilization, one of the earliest and most advanced cultures of the Bronze Age. The Minoans were known for their grand palaces, vibrant art, and extensive trade networks. They were also pioneers of seafaring. If Pablo Petrie was indeed a Minoan settlement, its disappearance could be linked to the fall of the Minoan civilization around 1000 BC. The Minoans had to contend with numerous catastrophes, such as volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and invasions by other groups. And Pablo Petrie may have been abandoned when the Minoan world collapsed. Others believe that Pablo Petrie was a smaller, local settlement, part of a wider network of city-states along the Greek coast. If so, its disappearance may have been due to more mundane reasons, such as economic problems, lack of resources, or a change in trade routes. Perhaps the harbor silted up, making it difficult for ships to access, or perhaps the city's strategic importance faded over time. What we do know is that the history of Pablo Petrie is both strong and vulnerable. It was a city designed to live in harmony with the sea, but in the end it was swept away by the very waters that once sustained it. As researchers continue to explore the site, new discoveries could help us understand what happened to the city. But for now, Pablo Petrie remains an exciting mystery, an ancient city that challenges what we know about the past. Today, Pablo Petrie lies just below the sea, a silent reminder of the brilliance and creativity of its builders. For centuries, it was forgotten, hidden beneath the waves, and untouched by human hands. But thanks to modern technology and the hard work of archaeologists, the city has been brought back to life, both literally and figuratively. One of the greatest advances in the study of Pablo Petrie has been the use of three-dimensional mapping and underwater imaging, which have provided a better understanding of the city and its secrets. In the early 20th century, a group of researchers joined forces with the Greek Ministry of Culture to create a detailed digital model of the ancient city of Pablo Petrie. Thanks to advanced sonar and photogrammetry technology, they were able to map the site as never before, revealing hidden elements that had remained buried for thousands of years. The images they produced are stunning, showing the city's streets, buildings, and even individual stone slabs with incredible clarity. This digital mapping effort has allowed archaeologists to study Pablo Petrie without disturbing its delicate remains. Unlike traditional excavation, which often involves removing artifacts and structures, digital mapping preserves the site as it is. This means that future generations will be able to continue exploring and learning from it, keeping the site intact for years to come. But Pablo Petrie is more than just an archaeological site. It is also a cultural treasure. Local communities have embraced the city as a symbol of their heritage and are working hard to protect and promote it. Efforts are currently underway to have Pablo Petrie recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a prestigious title that would help ensure its preservation for the future. The rediscovery of Pablo Petrie has also sparked renewed interest in underwater archaeology. Inspired by this ancient city, researchers have begun exploring other submerged sites around the world, from sunken ports in the Mediterranean to lost temples in Southeast Asia. Pablo Petrie has become a shining example for those seeking to unlock the secrets of the past, proving that even forgotten places hold incredible stories waiting to be told. However, despite its current importance, Pablo Petrie remains shrouded in mystery. Who built it? Why did they choose such a vulnerable location to build such an advanced city? What can we learn from her successes and mistakes? The story of Pablo Petrie is far from over. As technology advances, so will our understanding of this ancient city. For now, it reminds us of the delicate relationship between humanity and nature, a relationship that has shaped our history and will continue to influence our future. As we leave Pablo Petrie behind, it is important to reflect on its legacy. It was a city that flourished for thousands of years, a place where people lived, worked, and dreamed. Although its buildings have been lost to the sea, its story remains. An enduring story of resilience, innovation, and the enduring power of human civilization. Let's now travel to the wide-open waters of the Pacific Ocean, where a completely different mystery was revealed. This is the story of the E.B. Jidda, a ship that disappeared without a trace, only to reappear weeks later, abandoned and surrounded by unanswered questions. In October 1955, the MV Joy set sail from Samoa on what was supposed to be a simple, routine voyage. The ship, which had once been a luxurious private yacht, had been converted into a reliable workhorse that traveled between the islands of the South Pacific, carrying passengers and cargo. But when the Joy-Ida failed to arrive at its destination, a massive search was launched. Weeks later, the ship was found adrift more than 600 miles off course, completely empty, with no crew, no passengers, and no explanation for its strange fate. What had happened aboard the MV Joy-Ida? Why did its crew disappear? And why was the ship left to wander the sea like a ghost? This is the disturbing mystery that still surrounds the Joy-Ida. In the early 1950s, the South Pacific was vast and isolated, made up of small islands connected by trade routes that spanned thousands of miles of open ocean. For the inhabitants of these remote islands, the sea was more than just a means of survival. It was their highway, their livelihood, and sometimes their greatest danger. And in the middle of this vast blue ocean was the MV Joy-Ida, a ship with a rich and mysterious history. Originally built in 1931 as a luxurious private yacht for a Hollywood director, the Joy-Ida was once the epitome of elegance and glamour, but by the 1940s, its heyday had come to an end. During World War II, the U.S. Navy repurposed it as a military patrol boat. After the war, it was sold to private owners who converted it into a humble but reliable merchant ship. Although it no longer had the glamour of yesteryear, the Joy-Ida earned a reputation as a sturdy and seaworthy vessel. In 1955, the Joy-Ida belonged to Captain Thomas Dusty Miller, a seasoned British sailor with decades of experience navigating the Pacific Ocean. Captain Miller was well known and respected, as he had a thorough understanding of the dangers and unpredictable nature of the ocean. If anyone could navigate the treacherous waters safely, it was him. On October 3rd, 1955, the Joy-Ida set sail from the port of Apia in Samoa, bound for the Tequila Islands, some 270 miles to the north. The voyage was expected to be routine and last no more than 2 days. On board were 25 people, including the crew, 16 passengers, and a cargo of medical supplies, food, wood, and other goods destined for the isolated islands. Among the passengers was Dr. Alfred Dennis, a respected physician traveling to Tequila to perform surgical operations. In remote areas such as these, access to medical care was scarce and often meant the difference between life and death. Spirits were high when the Joy-Ida set sail from Apia in calm weather and steady seas. There was no indication that anything was wrong. However, as hours turned into days, something strange happened. The Joy-Ida never reached the Tequila Islands. At first, radio operators assumed that the delay was due to a minor mechanical problem or a navigational error, which was common in the South Pacific. However, by the third day, concern began to spread. The ship's radio had gone silent, and there was still no sign of the Joida. Word of the disappearance quickly spread, and a massive search operation began. Planes and ships searched thousands of square miles of open sea between Samoa and the Tokelau Islands, but found nothing. No trace of wreckage, no distress signals, no sign of the missing vessel. It was as if the Joida had vanished, swallowed up by the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. Then 2 weeks later, on November 10th, 1955, the mystery took a chilling turn. A merchant ship, sailing near Fiji, spotted something unusual in the distance. At first, it looked like an ordinary piece of floating debris, a dark shape bobbing on the waves. But as the crew got closer, they realized it was the missing Joida, adrift and abandoned more than 600 miles off course. The sight was terrifying. The once unsinkable ship was listing heavily to one side with part of its deck submerged beneath the water. Despite the damage, the Joida remained afloat, confirming its solid cedar construction. But where were the crew and passengers? The ship was eerily silent, with no signs of life on board. When rescue teams boarded, the scene they encountered was even more disturbing. The Joida looked like a ghost ship. Its interior was in chaos, and the cargo was scattered across the deck. Medical supply boxes had been opened, and blood-stained bandages lay on the deck. But there was no explanation for their purpose. The lifeboats and life rafts were missing, along with the ship's personal effects and navigation equipment. In the main cabin, the radio was tuned to the international distress frequency, but its antenna was damaged, rendering it useless. Rescuers noted that in its current state, the radio could only reach a range of about 2 miles, making it impossible for anyone on board to call for help. Adding to the mystery, the cabin clock had stopped at 10:25, as if frozen at the exact moment when something went terribly wrong. The boat's engines posed another puzzle. The main engine was out of service, and the auxiliary engine, a smaller backup, was covered with blankets, suggesting that someone had tried to protect it from damage. Despite these problems, the ship was still seaworthy, was not sinking, and there was no immediate danger to anyone on board. However, for unknown reasons, the crew and passengers had abandoned the Joida. What had happened to them? Why had they abandoned the ship? And what had caused their disturbing and inexplicable abandonment? The mystery of the Joida remains unsolved and leaves only questions. The ship's records had disappeared along with any documents that might explain what had happened. All the rescuers found were fragments of a mystery, an empty ship, signs of a hasty departure, and no clue as to where the crew and passengers had gone. When the Joida was towed back to port, the questions became even greater. What could have led the crew to abandon a ship that was still afloat? Why did they take the lifeboats, but leave behind important supplies such as food and water? And why was the ship so far off course, drifting in the middle of the Pacific Ocean? The discovery of the MV Joida left investigators with a flood of unanswered questions. It wasn't just the disturbing sight of an empty ship adrift, but a myriad of mysteries. What could have led 25 people to abandon a perfectly seaworthy vessel? And why did they disappear without a trace? One popular theory is that mechanical failure played a major role. The Joida was not in perfect condition when it set sail from Samoa. The ship's main engine was known to be unreliable, and some reports suggest that a leaking pipe caused water to accumulate in the hull, making the ship appear to be sinking. Fearing the worst, the crew may have panicked and believed the ship was about to sink, leading them to abandon it. But here's the problem. The Joida was not sinking. Its sturdy cedarwood construction made it very buoyant, even if it had taken on water. Abandoning such a strong vessel would have been a last resort, but there were no lifeboats, which means the crew had no intention of staying on board. Another possibility is that the crew simply misjudged the situation. The South Pacific is known for its powerful and unpredictable currents, and if the Joida had been taking on water, even for a short time, the ship could have listed enough to make the crew believe it was doomed. But if the lifeboats had been used, why weren't they found? Did they drift too far from the search area? Or was it something else, something more sinister, that prevented anyone from surviving? There is also the theory of foul play. The Joyita was carrying valuable cargo, including medical supplies, which could have made it a target for pirates. Although the waters of the South Pacific were not lawless, piracy still existed in the 1950s. Could the crew and passengers have been attacked, forced overboard, or even taken prisoner? This theory gains strength when considering the missing personal items and navigation equipment. If pirates had boarded the ship, they could have taken any valuables before abandoning it. However, there were no signs of struggle, so piracy remains mere speculation. One of the most chilling theories is that the Joyita was hit by a rogue wave, a huge wall of water capable of capsizing ships. Rogue waves are rare, but extremely destructive. Some believe that such a wave could have struck the Joyita, flooding the deck and forcing the crew to abandon ship. But when the ship was found, it was still afloat, making this explanation difficult to believe. Why would the crew abandon a ship capable of surviving such an event? Then there are the stranger theories. Some suggest that the crew encountered something inexplicable, a terrifying phenomenon that caused them to flee. Stories of ghost ships and sea monsters have haunted maritime lore for centuries, although there is no evidence to support these ideas. They speak to the deep fear of the unknown that has always surrounded the sea. The Pacific Ocean is vast and full of secrets, and the idea that the Joyita could have encountered something beyond our understanding remains a possibility that we cannot easily dismiss. There's also the unsettling idea that we may never truly know what happened. The ocean is a relentless place, capable of erasing all evidence in the blink of an eye. Whether the crew succumbed to thirst, storms, or even internal conflict, the lack of physical clues leaves us with nothing but conjecture. The Joyita, like so many other ghost ships before it, remains a mystery. The story of the Lemby Joyita did not end when it was found. In fact, its legend only grew after it was rescued and repaired. But for many, the Joyita was no longer just a ship, but a symbol of maritime mystery, a vessel cursed by its own unanswered questions. Once repaired, the ship returned to service, but its dark reputation lingered. Sailors feared working on it, believing it was haunted by the spirits of the missing. Some even claimed to hear strange sounds coming from the ship or to feel an eerie presence while on board. Whether these stories were true or due to the ship's disturbing past, they added another layer of intrigue to the Joyita's story. Over time, the ship fell into disrepair again, this time on purpose, and was left to rot. The Joyita became a forgotten relic of its own mystery, a physical reminder of the day it was discovered adrift in the vast Pacific Ocean, empty and unexplained. But the Joyita's legacy is more than just its ghostly reputation. It is a reminder of the vastness and unpredictability of the ocean. Even in an age when technology and modern navigation are at their peak, the sea remains a place where mysteries are revealed, where ships can disappear without a trace, and where answers often slip beyond our grasp. For historians and sea enthusiasts, the Joyita is an example of the unknown, a story that forces us to rethink what we know about human behavior, mechanical failure, and the brute force of nature. How do you explain a ship that was still afloat, but completely abandoned? How do you explain the disappearance of 25 people without a trace? And what about the creepy details? The stop clock, the bloodstains, the missing equipment. With no clear answers for the inhabitants of the South Pacific, the Joyita is more than just a mystery. It is a warning. It is a story of how even the most routine voyages can turn into something inexplicable. It serves as a reminder to respect the sea, recognize its power, and understand that it can keep its secrets hidden for as long as it wants. And so the Joyita remains one of the ocean's most enduring enigmas. Its story has inspired countless theories, sparked debates among experts, and captivated the imagination of all those who wonder what really happened on that fateful day in 1955. But like all great mysteries, the story of the Joyita is as much about what we don't know as it is about what we do know. As the ship fades into history, its legacy lives on. A ghost ship that continues to haunt the waters of the Pacific, forever linked to the mysteries of the deep. The MB Joy may have been abandoned, but its story will never be forgotten. It was 1986 when something strange and unforgettable was discovered beneath the waves near Japan. A local diving guide named Kijichiro Aratake was exploring the waters off the coast of a small, quiet island called Yonaguni. What he found that day would spark debate, theories, and curiosity around the world. Lying quietly on the ocean floor were huge stone structures, so large and perfectly shaped that they looked like the remains of an ancient city lost in time. At first glance, it looked like a place where people had lived, built temples, and laid out streets, but not everyone agreed. Some experts believe that these formations were simply natural rocks shaped by the sea over thousands of years. Others were convinced that they were man-made, possibly part of a forgotten chapter in human history. This is the mysterious story of the Yonaguni Monument, one of the most fascinating underwater puzzles ever discovered. The story begins in a remote and peaceful corner of the world. The island of Yonaguni, belonging to the Japanese prefecture of Okinawa, is surrounded by clear turquoise waters and rugged rocky cliffs. It is the last inhabited island in Japan before reaching Taiwan. Life there passes slowly with nature as the protagonist. It is a place where the sky meets the sea in a peaceful and endless embrace. But beneath those calm and beautiful waters lies a mystery that has left scientists and adventurers scratching their heads for decades. Kijichiro Arak, who ran local diving tours, was always on the lookout for new and exciting places to show his clients. Yonaguni was already renowned for its stunning coral reefs and crystal-clear waters, a true paradise for divers. But Aratak wanted to offer something more, something unforgettable. One sunny afternoon, while exploring the southern coast of the island, something unusual caught his eye. He noticed a dark shadow on the ocean floor, darker than the surrounding area. Curious, he swam down to get a closer look. As he got closer, the shadow grew larger and clearer, and then he saw it. What emerged from the seabed was nothing like the usual corals or rocks he was used to. It was enormous. It had sharp edges and clean lines. The shapes were too straight and perfect to be natural. They looked like giant steps or terraces carved out of stone, almost like a sunken pyramid or part of a long-lost city. Aratake couldn't believe his eyes. He had stumbled upon something completely unexpected. Thus began the mystery of the Yonaguni Monument, a place that still challenges our understanding of history and nature today. As Professor Masai Kimura continued to explore the underwater structure near Yonaguni Island, he began to notice details that didn't seam random. Some parts appeared to have been carefully shaped by human hands. He saw what looked like wide staircases leading to elevated platforms, long passageways carved directly into the rock, and even openings that appeared to have been doors or windows. A particularly curious section of the site, called the Turtle, looked like a huge sculpture of a sea turtle sitting on a pedestal, as if it had been placed there on purpose. The more Kimura saw, the more he believed that this was no accident of nature. He became convinced that they had been built by humans, possibly by a civilization that predated written history. But there was one big question. How could such a structure be underwater? The monument is located about 30 m below the sea surface. Kimura estimates that to have once been above sea level, it would have to be at least 10,000 years old, dating back to the last ice age, when sea levels were much lower because huge glaciers covered parts of the. If true, Yonaguni's monument would be one of the oldest human structures ever discovered, possibly older than the pyramids of Egypt or Stonehenge. Such a discovery could completely change what we thought we knew about human history. Kimura spent many years diving at the site and researching it in detail. Every time he dived, he found something new that reinforced his theory. He claimed to have discovered what appeared to be stone tools buried in the nearby seabed, as well as marks and symbols carved into the rock, possibly the remains of an ancient language. For Kimura, this monument was not a mere coincidence of nature, but a lost piece of a forgotten world, built by a highly advanced culture long before the civilizations we learn about in school. But not everyone agreed with him. When news of the Yonaguni monument spread around the world, many experts began to weigh in, especially geologists who study how rocks and landforms are created. Some are skeptical. They believe that the structure could be explained by natural forces. The main material of Yonaguni is sandstone, a type of rock that can crack in straight lines when exposed to water, pressure, and the movements of the earth. Over thousands of years, underwater currents and tectonic plate movements could have shaped the steps, terraces, and angles that make the monument appear man-made. One of the most vocal critics was Dr. Robert Schoch, a geologist at Boston University. He traveled to Yonaguni himself and dived down to see the monument up close. While he agreed that some parts of the site were unusual, he believed that most of it could be explained by natural erosion. In his opinion, there was not enough solid evidence, such as tools, pottery, or other signs of human life to say for sure that the monument had been built by humans. The debate over the Yonaguni monument quickly became a hot topic. On one side, Kimura and his supporters pointed to the precision of the shapes and the detailed layout of the monument, arguing that nature alone could not create something so organized. On the other side, skeptics insisted that without clear artifacts, we could not claim that the site had been built by humans. Both sides presented strong arguments, and, as time passed, the mystery only deepened. Today, the Yonaguni monument has become a dream destination for divers. People from all over the world come to swim through its labyrinthine structures, surrounded by colorful fish and the tranquil silence of the deep sea. It is a place where history and nature seem to blend together and where one cannot help but feel a sense of awe. Whether it is the remains of a long-lost civilization or an amazing creation of nature, the Yonaguni monument continues to amaze, baffle, and inspire all who visit it. The Yonaguni monument quickly became one of the most debated discoveries in modern history, attracting the attention of scientists, historians, and explorers from around the world. On one side were people like Professor Masaki Kimura, who firmly believed that the monument was the work of an ancient and unknown civilization, a relic so old that it could change everything we thought we knew about the early days of human history. On the other side were the skeptics, especially geologists, who believed that the monument was not man-made at all. They saw it as an amazing but completely natural creation, shaped over thousands of years by the powerful forces of ocean waves, earthquakes, and time. Kimura's theory was bold. He believed that the monument was not just a building, but part of a much larger complex that included paths, smaller buildings, and even areas that appeared to have been used for rituals, such as a stone altar. According to Kimura, the entire site could be up to 10,000 years old, possibly even older than the famous pyramids of Egypt or the stone circles of Stonehenge. If his theory were true, it would mean that an advanced society once existed in this part of the world, at a time when most people were believed to be simple hunter-gatherers. It would mean that human civilization began much earlier than we imagine. Kimura spent years diving in Yonaguni and studying the site. Over time, he claimed to have found even more clues to support his idea. He claimed to have discovered stone tools near the monument, as well as carvings and symbols engraved in the rock, marks that could belong to an ancient language or culture. He even suggested that some parts of the monument, such as the famous turtle formation, were carefully carved to resemble animals or meaningful symbols rather than random shapes created by nature. For Kimura, all these details pointed to one thing. The hand of man had shaped this place, but many experts disagreed. One of the most vocal critics of Kimura's theory was Dr. Robert Schoch, a well-known geologist at Boston University. After diving at the site himself, Schoch admitted that some parts of the structure looked unusual, but he was not convinced that they had been built by humans. In his opinion, the monument's features could be explained by simple geology. The rock that makes up Yonaguni is mainly sandstone, which tends to crack in straight lines. Combined with underwater earthquakes and strong currents, this type of erosion can create straight edges, flat steps, and terraces that look man-made but are completely natural. Schoch was not alone. Other geologists pointed to similar natural formations. Around the world, in Northern Ireland, the Giant's Causeway is made up of thousands of perfectly shaped hexagonal columns, formed not by people, but by ancient lava flows. Into the Bahamas, Bimini Road was believed to be a lost highway from Atlantis. But scientists later discovered that it was just a natural pattern in the limestone caused by erosion over time. One of the biggest problems with Kimura's theory was the lack of clear physical evidence. To confirm that a site has been constructed by humans, archaeologists usually need to find artifacts such as pottery, tools, bones, or other man-made objects. Although Kimura said he had found stone tools near the site, critics argued that these tools could have been washed there from elsewhere in the ocean and did not necessarily prove that the monument had been built by humans. The debate was not just about Yonaguni. It was part of a much broader issue. How do we understand and interpret the ancient past? Kimura and his supporters believed that the monument could help us rethink the chronology of human history. They saw it as a gateway to new discoveries, a clue that our ancestors may have been far more advanced than we realize. Some even linked Yonaguni to ancient legends, such as the mythical continent of Mu, which is said to have sank into the Pacific Ocean thousands of years ago. Although there is no scientific evidence that Mu ever existed, stories of sunken lands appear in many cultures, from Atlantis in the west to Lemuria in the east. Kimura imagined Yonaguni as a sacred place, a cultural and religious center for long-lost peoples. Its stepped design reminded him of the ziggurats and pyramids of Mesopotamia and Central America. If his theory were true, it could mean that the history of humanity goes back much further than we ever thought possible. But again, skeptics had their doubts. They pointed to a major problem. There was no clear connection between the Yonaguni monument and any known ancient civilization. Unlike places such as Machu Picchu or the Great Pyramid of Giza, where artifacts, written records, and nearby settlements confirm human involvement, Yonaguni stands alone. There are no nearby villages, no pottery or bones, no ruins of houses or temples. There is nothing to solidly link the structure to a human culture. Then there is the question of its age. Kimura estimates that the monument is more than 10,000 years old, based on how much sea levels have risen since the end of the last ice age. But dating a site like this is tricky. Without carbon-dated artifacts or other physical evidence, it's impossible to know exactly how old the monument really is. Despite all the debate and unanswered questions, the monument, Yonaguni, continues to fascinate people around the world. For many, it is not just about rocks or ruins, but about curiosity, imagination, and the deep human desire to uncover the secrets of the past. Whether it is a natural wonder or a forgotten masterpiece of an ancient civilization, one thing is certain. Yonaguni holds a powerful mystery beneath the waves and continues to inspire new questions with every dive. The idea of a lost civilization that created enormous structures only to have them swallowed by the sea is incredibly intriguing. It taps into our deep fascination with the unknown and our strong desire to uncover secrets hidden beneath the surface. Even if the monument is a natural formation, it is still a masterpiece of nature, a stunning reminder of the immense power and creativity of the Earth. The straight lines, terraces, and sharp angles may have been shaped by erosion and tectonic activity, but they seem so deliberate, almost as if someone had created them. Intentionally, like a work of art. Standing by the sea, surrounded by towering walls and large platforms, it is easy to understand why so many divers have been drawn to the mystery of it all. In the end, the Yonaguni monument remains an enigma. Is it a forgotten relic of an ancient world, a symbol of human genius lost in the sands of time, or is it simply a natural wonder shaped over thousands of years by the relentless power of the ocean? For now, the answer lies hidden beneath the waves, waiting to be revealed. The mystery of the Yonaguni monument leaves us with more questions than answers. Is it the creation of an ancient civilization, or simply a masterpiece of nature. Either way, it is a story that reminds us how much of our world is still unexplored, how many secrets lie beneath the surface waiting to be discovered. The Challenger Deep is the deepest known point in the ocean, located in the Mariana Trench. But the story of this incredible place goes beyond its mere depth. The Challenger Deep is surrounded by many mysteries that have intrigued scientists for years, such as the strange and unexplained sounds recorded in the Mariana Trench. These sounds suggest that something unusual could be hiding in the vast, dark abyss. Let's embark on a journey into the deepest and most unknown, where the Challenger Deep and the secrets of the Mariana Trench await us. The ocean covers more than 70% of the Earth's surface, but its greatest mysteries are hidden in its deepest regions. The Challenger Deep, which is the deepest point on Earth, plunges nearly 7 miles below the surface of the Pacific Ocean. This depth is so much greater than the height of Mount Everest that it is difficult to comprehend. It is such an extreme and isolated place that we have explored it less than the surface of the moon. But what lies at the bottom of this dark abyss? What kind of life survives in a world where the temperature is just above the freezing point, where the pressure is more than 1,000 times greater than at sea level, and where eternal darkness reigns? And then there are those strange sounds. Scientists have recorded noises in the Mariana Trench that they cannot explain. Are these sounds due to natural processes, or do they suggest that something even stranger lurks in the depths, something we do not yet understand? This is the story of Challenger Deep and the mysteries of the Mariana Trench, a place that seems like the last frontier on Earth. The Challenger Deep is located at the southern end of the Mariana Trench, a place so remote and mysterious that for centuries it appeared as a blank space on our maps. The trench stretches for nearly 100 miles and plunges almost 36,000 feet below the ocean surface. It is one of the most extreme environments on Earth. The pressure is 1,000 times greater than at sea level. The temperature is close to freezing, and sunlight never reaches the depths. The trench is like an underwater version of outer space, a harsh and strange world where life should not be able to survive. And yet life exists here, thriving in ways that are not yet fully understood. To give you an idea of the depth of the Challenger Deep, let's put it into perspective. At its deepest point, it is almost 11 kilometers below the surface, which is more than 15 times the height of Mount Everest. Imagine standing on top of Everest, looking down at the vast landscape below, and then imagine sinking all that distance into the cold, dark ocean. That's what the depths of Challenger are like. The Mariana Trench itself was formed by tectonic forces, where the Pacific Plate slowly slides beneath the smaller Mariana Plate in a process called subduction. This geological collision has created a deep scar in the Earth's crust, forming a trench that acts as a boundary between two enormous plates of rock. Although scientists have studied the formation and structure of the trench, much of what lies within remains a mystery waiting to be discovered. The Challenger Deep remains one of the least explored places on Earth. Until very recently, we were unaware of its existence. The trench was first discovered in 1875 during the voyage of the Challenger, a British research vessel sent on a mission to explore the world's oceans. Using a weighted rope, the crew measured the depth of the trench and discovered that it was much greater than anything they had ever encountered before. This discovery sparked our fascination with the Mariana Trench and its deepest point, which would later be named after the ship that first measured it. Although we have mapped and charted the depths of the Challenger, exploring it has proven much more difficult. The conditions down there are so extreme that even the most advanced technology struggles to survive under the immense pressure. For decades, the Challenger Deep was considered more of an idea than a real place, so distant and dangerous that it seemed almost impossible to reach. However, that changed in 1960 when two men, Jack Spicker and Don Walsh, decided to go where no human had gone before. In 1960, aboard the Bathyscaphe Trieste, Pickard and Walsh embarked on a journey that would go down in history. The Trieste was no ordinary ship. It was designed specifically for deep-sea exploration and consisted essentially of a metal sphere, surrounded by a steel and gasoline shell, built to withstand the unimaginable pressure of the ocean depths. The sphere was small, barely able to fit 2 people, and the interior was cramped, claustrophobic, and poorly lit. Every part of the vessel was built to withstand the crushing pressure of over 16,000 pounds per square inch, the kind of force that could instantly crush a human body. Their journey began just after dawn. As the Trieste sank into the water, the outside world gradually darkened until all that could be seen through the portholes was total darkness. When they reached the midnight zone, about 3,000 feet below the surface, there was no more sunlight, just a terrifying void. The only light came from bioluminescent creatures drifting past the window, their glowing bodies creating an otherworldly spectacle. But as they descended, life became increasingly scarce. At around 9,000 meters, the walls of the Trieste began to creak and groan under the enormous pressure. For Picard and Walsh, the sounds were unsettling, a constant reminder of how fragile their vessel was in the face of the immense force of the ocean. But despite the risks, they continued their descent into the abyss. After nearly 5 hours, they finally reached the Challenger Deep at a depth of 15,000 m. They were at the deepest point on Earth, a place no human had ever set foot. Outside the window, the seafloor was flat and empty, a vast expanse of sediment and clay. The pressure was so intense that it compressed the water, making it denser than at the surface. The 2 men spent only 20 minutes at the bottom, scanning the darkness. To their surprise, they saw what looked like a flat fish swimming along the seafloor. It was an amazing discovery because it suggested that life could exist in one of the most extreme environments on Earth. But as their oxygen was running out and the dangers were increasing, they had no choice but to begin their ascent. The success of the Trieste mission was a monumental achievement, but it also revealed how little we knew about the ocean depths. For many years, the Challenger Deep, the deepest part of the world's oceans, remained largely unexplored. Only robotic probes and unmanned vehicles had ventured into its depths. It wasn't until 2012, more than 50 years later, that filmmaker James Cameron made his own journey to the depths of the Challenger Deep. He did so aboard the Deep Sea Challenger, a specially designed submersible. Cameron's mission was not only to explore, but also to share the experience with the world. He spent hours at the bottom capturing stunning images of the ocean floor and collecting samples for scientific study. Unlike previous explorers such as Don Walsh and Jack Spicker, who limited themselves to simple observation, Cameron had advanced technology at his disposal. Thanks to his high-tech cameras and sensors, he was able to document the strange and otherworldly world of the Challenger Deep in incredible detail. What he discovered was both fascinating and humbling. The ocean floor was teeming with unusual creatures such as translucent sea cucumbers, shrimp-like amphipods, and microbial mats. These organisms had adapted to the harsh conditions of the trench, thriving in complete darkness and depending on chemical reactions rather than sunlight to survive. The experience changed Cameron's life and reminded him how little we know about the ocean and its hidden depths. Despite these advances, the depths of the Challenger remain one of the least known places on Earth. Less than 5% of the world's oceans have been mapped in detail, and the Challenger Deep is no exception. Its remote location, combined with the cost and extreme complexity of exploring the seabed, means that much of its history remains untold. What might lie in its unexplored crevices? There are unknown life forms waiting to be discovered or geological phenomena that could completely alter our understanding of the planet. For now, the depths of the Challenger remain an enigma, a place where science and mystery coexist. It is a reminder of how much there is left to explore on our planet. A dark, strange world, full of endless mysteries. But the depths of the Challenger are only a small part of the immense Mariana Trench, a place where the limits of human knowledge are constantly being pushed. Spanning more than 100 miles across the western Pacific, the trench is a huge, gloomy canyon filled with extreme conditions, crushing pressure, freezing temperatures, and geological forces that are almost impossible to comprehend. Despite its harshness, the trench has not remained silent. In recent years, scientists have captured a series of disturbing sounds coming from its depths. These recordings range from the subtle creaking of shifting tectonic plates to strange and unsettling whale songs that seem impossible to explain. What are these sounds? Are they simply natural phenomena, or could they be signals of something even more mysterious? Leaving Challenger Deep behind, let's focus on the strange acoustics of the Mariana Trench and mysterious signals that have baffled scientists and sparked endless debate. The Mariana Trench is the deepest ocean trench on Earth, a place where the laws of nature seem to stretch to their limits. Its incredible depth is matched only by its inaccessibility. The trench is so remote that even reaching its surface can take weeks of travel by boat. Beneath the surface lies a world shaped by powerful geological forces. The trench is formed by the pressure exerted by the Pacific Plate beneath the Mariana Plate in a process known as subduction. This process generates intense seismic activity, underwater volcanoes, and towering hydrothermal vents that release superheated water into the deep sea. But the trench is more than just a geological wonder. It is also a strange soundscape filled with noises ranging from the ordinary to the extraordinary. Sound behaves differently underwater, where the immense pressure and density of the ocean depths can amplify and distort even the weakest sounds. For decades, scientists have used underwater microphones called hydrophones to record the sounds of the trench in an effort to understand this mysterious environment. What they have captured is much more than they expected. When the first hydrophones were placed in the Mariana Trench, researchers expected to hear the usual sounds of the deep, the distant rumblings of underwater volcanoes, the faint moans of shifting tectonic plates, or the occasional call of a whale diving into the depths. But what they recorded went far beyond that. They heard sounds so strange and alien that they seemed to come from another world. The best known of these strange sounds is the so-called Western Pacific Biot Wang, a noise first recorded in 2014. It starts as a deep, whining hum, almost like the moan of an old, creaking machine. It then quickly turns into a high-pitched, metallic chirp that cuts through the air before falling into a low, resonant rumble. It is a sound unlike anything ever recorded in nature before, and it repeats in a pattern, making it seem like it is not a random occurrence. The Biot rumble has been recorded several times, always in the same region of the Western Pacific. What makes it particularly puzzling is its frequency range, which is so unusual that it does not match any known biological or geological source. But the Biot hum is just one of many mysteries. Other recordings made with underwater microphones called hydrophones have picked up bursts of rhythmic pulses almost like sonar, although they do not come from any man-made device. These pulses sound high-pitched, mechanical, and strangely deliberate, almost as if they're trying to communicate something in the depths of the trench. The origin of these pulses is still unknown. There are also long, deep booms that extend across the entire sound spectrum. These low-frequency growls could be related to geological activities such as the grinding of tectonic plates or underwater landslides. But their power and clarity suggest that there may be something else at work. They could come from a huge, as yet undiscovered creature moving through the trench. Or are they natural phenomena amplified by the unique acoustics of the trench? One of the most disturbing recordings is a sound that some scientists have dubbed the hiss. It is a high-pitched, wavering noise, almost like an animal's cry. However, it echoes in such a way that it seems immense and distant, as if coming from the depths of the earth. Some have described it as mournful, even disturbing, as if the trench were alive and screaming in pain. Other sounds are even stranger. One recording captured what sounded like a steady rhythmic tapping, similar to a heartbeat. It was faint but persistent, and its regularity suggested that it had a purpose. It could be the sound of a creature from the depths of the sea communicating or moving, or it could be something completely mechanical, such as an underwater current or the resonance of shifting masses of water. What makes the sounds of the Mariana Trench so captivating is their diversity. Each noise is unique, from the strange tinkling of biotopes to the eerie whistles and rhythmic pulsations. Together, they create an acoustic portrait of a place that seems to defy the natural order. Although some of these sounds have possible explanations, many remain a complete mystery. The mysterious sounds of the Mariana Trench have sparked a wide range of theories, from the most scientific to the most fantastical. One of the most widespread ideas is that many of the sounds we hear from the ocean are created by living beings. The ocean is home to an incredible variety of life, much of which remains unknown to us. The Mariana Trench, one of the deepest areas of the ocean, represents one of the last frontiers. For marine science, creatures living in the deep sea have adapted to survive in extreme environments, and their strange characteristics often seem almost unreal. It could be the mysterious tinkling of the biotide of a creature yet to be discovered. Some scientists believe so. The pattern of the sound, its frequency, and the way it repeats suggest that it could come from a living being. This is not surprising, as the deep sea has a history of surprising discoveries. For example, it is only in the last few decades that the existence of the colossal squid, previously believed to be a sailor's tale, has been proven. If there is a creature in the Mariana Trench that uses a new form of communication, it is quite possible that we have just heard it for the first time. However, there is a problem. The buzzing sound of the biot, along with other sounds recorded in the trench, does not match the sounds of any known marine animal. Not even whales, which emit some of the most complex and varied sounds in the ocean, produce noises at such high frequencies or with the metallic and mechanical quality of the biodang. This has led some researchers to consider other explanations. Perhaps the sounds are not biological, but geological. The Mariana Trench is a place in constant flux, with shifting tectonic plates and underwater volcanoes heating the ocean floor. These movements can cause vibrations that travel for miles and can become distorted as they bounce off the unusual shape of the trench. The rhythmic pulses heard in the trench could be caused by these geological processes, such as earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, or even the slow movements of underwater landslides. But while this idea may explain some of the sounds, it does not explain their variety or their eerie, almost otherworldly quality. Then there are the more speculative theories. Some scientists suggest that the sounds could be related to unknown underwater objects, sometimes referred to as unidentified submerged objects or USOs. The ocean is vast and largely unexplored, and there are many stories about strange lights and ships seen underwater. Could the rhythmic or bioturbation sound be coming from unidentified advanced technologies operating in the trench? Although there is no solid evidence to support this theory, the mysterious nature of the sounds leaves room for such speculation. Other researchers have proposed that the sounds could be due to entirely new natural processes that we have never before observed or understood. The deep ocean is a place of extremes where pressure, temperature, and chemical reactions create conditions that are difficult to replicate on land. Could these strange sounds be the result of these interactions? This possibility excites scientists and ocean enthusiasts alike. Finally, some suggest that the sounds could be indicating something even bigger and more important, perhaps a completely new ecosystem, a new type of life, or even hidden geological features that could change our understanding of Earth. The Mariana Trench is a place where science and mystery converge, and each new discovery raises more questions than answers. But one thing is certain. The sounds of the Mariana Trench remind us how little we really know about our planet. They call us to explore, to push the boundaries of technology and knowledge, and to continue asking questions about what lies beneath the surface. When we hear these strange noises, we can't help but wonder what else is out there waiting to be discovered. On November 15, 2017, the Era San Juan, a diesel-electric submarine belonging to the Argentine Navy, set out on what was supposed to be a routine mission. The submarine was one of Argentina's most advanced vessels, a German-built TAR 1700-class craft designed for long-range operations. Commissioned in 1985, the San Juan had served the Navy for more than 3 decades and had recently undergone a thorough overhaul, a process intended to extend its service life by another 30 years. The San Juan's mission was simple: to patrol Argentine territorial waters, monitor illegal fishing, and maintain a visible presence in the South Atlantic. The crew of 44 sailors was highly trained, a mix of experienced officers and promising recruits, and prepared for the challenges of submarine operations. The South Atlantic is not an easy place to navigate. Its waters are cold and rough, and the region is known for its unpredictable weather. The submarine departed from Ushuaia, a remote port city at the southern tip of Argentina, often called the end of the world. From there, the San Juan began its journey north toward its home base in Mar del Plata, a bustling naval center along Argentina's eastern coast. It was a familiar route that the submarine had traveled many times before. By all accounts, the mission was proceeding smoothly. On the morning of November 15th, the San Juan contacted Naval Command to report its position and the latest developments on its journey. During this communication, the crew mentioned an electrical problem in the bow battery compartment. According to the report, seawater had entered the submarine's snorkel, causing a short circuit in the battery system. Although this was a potentially serious problem, the crew assured Naval Command that they had isolated the affected compartment and were continuing their journey under control. That was the last communication from the ARA San Juan. When the submarine failed to report later that day, concern began to grow. Submarines, by design, typically operate in silence, cutting off communications to maintain stealth. The fact that it did not check in was not immediately alarming, but as the hours passed, Naval Command began to fear the worst. The San Juan was officially declared missing, and Argentina launched a massive search and rescue operation. The families of the crew gathered at the naval base in Mar del Plata, desperate for any news as the Navy scrambled to locate the vessel. The search for the San Juan quickly became one of the largest submarine rescue operations in history. Within days, Argentina requested assistance from 18 countries, including the United States, Russia, and the United Kingdom. Each of these countries contributed advanced technology and expertise to the operation, from state-of-the-art sonar systems to specialized underwater drones. Despite international cooperation, the South Atlantic proved to be a formidable adversary. The waters where the San Juan disappeared were vast and treacherous, stretching thousands of miles in all directions. The submarine's last known location was near the San Jorge Gulf, an area where the seabed drops sharply into deep underwater trenches. These depths, combined with strong currents and unpredictable weather, turned the search into a logistical nightmare. As ships and planes scoured the area, there was still hope that the San Juan remained intact and that its crew was alive but stranded. Submarines are equipped with emergency oxygen supplies that can last for several days in the event of a breakdown. If the crew had managed to seal the damaged compartment and surface, there would still be a chance of rescue. But as days turned into weeks, the harsh reality of the situation began to sink in. One of the most disturbing clues came from an international group that tracks hydroacoustic signals, i.e., sounds produced by underwater phenomena, such as earthquakes, explosions, or underwater activity. On the same day that the San Juan stopped communicating, their sensors detected an unusual sound near the submarine's last known position. The sound appeared to match what experts describe as an implosion, leading them to believe that the San Juan may have suffered a catastrophic failure. Its hull could have collapsed under the overwhelming pressure of the ocean. The discovery was devastating. If the submarine had indeed imploded, it would have happened in an instant, leaving no time for the crew to react or send a distress signal. But even with this grim evidence, the San Juan's exact location remained unknown. The search continued with Navy ships deploying sonar equipment to scan the ocean floor and planes flying over the area. However, Despite these efforts, the submarine seemed to have disappeared without a trace. As days turned into weeks, frustration grew. The families of the crew, who had gathered at the naval base in Mar del Plata, were becoming increasingly upset by the lack of information. Protests erupted with accusations that the Navy had failed to follow safety protocols and had mishandled the search. The incident soon became a national controversy that cast a harsh light on the state of Argentina's armed forces and their outdated equipment. By late November, the mission had officially shifted from a search for survivors to a recovery operation. Hopes of finding anyone alive had faded, replaced by the grim task of locating the wreckage and uncovering the truth about what had happened. However, the ocean remained silent, its depths concealing the secrets of the San Juan. It would take more than a year of painstaking effort before any real progress was made in solving the mystery. As the months passed and the wreckage of the San Juan remained missing, speculation about the cause of the submarine's disappearance grew. The absence of clear answers left room for many theories, some based on evidence, others purely speculative. Each theory painted a chilling picture of how what appeared to be a routine patrol could have ended in disaster. One of the main theories focused on an electrical problem reported by the crew just before their final communication. The San Juan's batteries, vital to its operation, were particularly vulnerable to failure if seawater entered the compartments where they were stored. According to the submarine's last message, seawater had entered through the snorkel, causing a short circuit in the bow battery compartment. Although the crew assured Naval Command that the situation was under control, experts suggested that the problem could have been much more serious than they let on. One possibility is that the short circuit caused the production of hydrogen gas, which is created as a byproduct of electrical faults in lead-acid batteries. If this gas accumulated in the confined space of the battery compartment, even the smallest spark could have caused a huge explosion. This would be consistent with the unusual acoustic event detected near the San Juan's last known location, a sound that experts believed could have been the result of an implosion or underwater explosion. Another theory suggested that the San Juan could have suffered structural failure due to the immense pressure of the deep ocean. Submarines are designed to operate at certain depths with hulls built to withstand the crushing weight of water. However, even the strongest structures can weaken over time due to wear and tear. The San Juan was over 30 years old and had undergone a major overhaul in 2014, during which many of its parts were replaced or repaired. Critics questioned whether the overhaul had been thorough enough, suggesting that defects in the submarine's hull could have gone unnoticed. If the San Juan descended beyond its safe operating depth, the pressure could have caused the hull to collapse almost instantly. There was also speculation about external factors, but these remain unclear. The South Atlantic is a vast and busy area, visited by fishing boats, commercial vessels, and even foreign submarines. Some have wondered whether the San Juan could have collided with another vessel, either on the surface or at depth. A collision at great depth could have severely damaged the submarine, leaving it unable to surface or send an emergency signal. Others have suggested that the submarine could have been hit by a torpedo or mine by accident, although there is no evidence to support this idea. One of the most debated theories is that the San Juan was on a secret mission when it disappeared. Some sources have claimed that the submarine was observing illegal fishing activities, illegal or foreign military activities in the region. This has led to speculation that the San Juan may have encountered a submarine from another nation or even been attacked as part of a deliberate act of aggression. Although the Argentine Navy has rejected these claims, the secretive nature of the mission has only fueled conspiracy theories. Perhaps the most disturbing possibility is that the San Juan was simply a victim of the harsh ocean environment. The sea is vast, powerful, and indifferent to human life. A combination of mechanical failure, human error, and natural conditions could have converged to create a perfect storm of disaster. The lack of clear answers deepened the mystery, leaving families and experts with questions that seem to have no answers. For more than a year, the San Juan remained hidden beneath the waves, its fate a mystery. Search efforts, though extensive, struggled against the size of the South Atlantic and the difficulties of locating a submarine in such deep waters. As months passed, and then a full year, hope of finding the ship seemed to fade. But in November 2018, a breakthrough finally came. A private company hired by the Argentine government called Ocean Infinity joined the search with advanced technology capable of mapping the ocean floor in great detail. Its ship, the CBT Constructor, was equipped with autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs, robotic systems designed to operate at extreme depths. These AVs could scan the seabed with sonar and high-resolution cameras, offering a level of accuracy that previous searches lacked. On November 17, 2018, just days after the first anniversary of the San Juan's disappearance, Ocean Infinity made a shocking discovery. More than 3,000 feet below the surface, in an area that had already been explored but not mapped, they found the wreckage of the submarine. The images sent by the AUPs showed a disturbing scene. The San Juan's hull was crushed and twisted, its parts scattered across the ocean floor. The submarine had suffered a catastrophic failure. Its structure had imploded under the immense pressure of the deep sea. The location of the wreckage matched the acoustic anomaly detected shortly after the submarine's last communication. This suggested that the San Juan had probably been lost within hours of its last transmission. The implosion would have happened instantly, so fast that the crew wouldn't have had time to react or send a distress signal. It was a sobering confirmation of the worst fears about the submarine's fate. For the families of the 44 sailors on board, the discovery was both a relief and a pain. After more than a year of uncertainty, they finally had answers. But the sight of the wreckage was a painful reminder of the tragedy. Many relatives expressed their anger at the Argentine Navy, accusing it of failing to properly manage the search and adequately ensure the safety of the submarine. The incident sparked widespread calls for reform of the Argentine military, with demands for better maintenance, training, and transparency. The discovery of the San Juan also highlighted the immense challenges posed by submarine operations. The find came in one of the most hostile environments possible, deep, cold, and remote. The fact that the submarine was found was a testament to the dedication of those involved in the search. However, even with the wreckage located, many questions remained unanswered. What exactly caused the catastrophic failure? Could it have been prevented? What lessons can be learned to prevent such a tragedy from happening again? The wreck of the San Juan still rests on the seabed, a stark reminder of the risks faced by those who venture into the depths of the ocean. Its discovery brought some relief, but it also highlighted the fragility of human life in the face of the immense power of nature. The story of the San Juan is a dark chapter in the history of underwater exploration that continues to resonate as we push the boundaries of what is possible beneath the waves. In 1872, a ship called the Mary Celeste was found adrift in the vast blue Atlantic Ocean. Its sails were only partially hoisted. Its valuable cargo was completely intact, and there was plenty of food and provisions on board. But there was one disturbing problem. There was not a single person left on the ship. The crew had vanished. No bodies, no signs of a struggle or storm. Nothing, just a silent, empty ship gliding eerily through the waves. To this day, the disappearance of the crew of the Mary Celeste remains one of the most chilling and baffling mysteries in maritime history. At first glance, the Mary Celeste did not look like a ship destined for legend. It was not a grand or luxurious vessel. It was a simple brigantine, a two-masted sailing ship built for work, not for fame or beauty. At just over 100 feet long and about 25 feet wide, it looked much like any other 19th-century cargo ship. What it lacked in size and splendor, it made up for in strength and endurance. The Mary Celeste was a tough, hard-working ship designed to carry heavy cargo through dangerous waters. It was originally launched in 1861 in Nova Scotia under another name, Amazon. From the beginning, her voyage was troubled. On her maiden voyage, she was damaged and had to be returned for repairs. Over the years, she changed owners several times and suffered one misfortune after another. In 1867, The ship ran aground during a heavy storm near Cape Breton Island. Battered and abandoned, it was rescued, sold at auction, and christened with a new name, Mary Celeste. This new name was supposed to give it a fresh start and ward off the bad luck that had plagued it. No one knows for sure, but if that was the hope, it didn't work. In 1872, the Mary Celeste had a new captain, Benjamin Brix. Captain Brix was everything the ship was not. He was an experienced and trusted sailor with many years of sailing the unpredictable Atlantic Ocean behind him. He was known for his caution, attention to detail, and discipline. Those who sailed with him respected his calm demeanor and sound decisions. He did not take wild risks and certainly did not allow carelessness on board his ship. But this voyage was more than just another job for Captain Brix. It was personal. He had carefully chosen 7 crew members whom he trusted deeply, and, even more unusually, he had brought his beloved wife Sarah and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia with him. Although it was unusual for captains to take their families on such long and risky voyages, Brick was a devoted family man. He saw this trip, a business trip to Genoa, Italy, as an opportunity to combine work with family time. The Mary Celeste set sail from New York Harbor on November 7, 1872, with a cargo of 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol. This was not the kind of alcohol found in bars. It was highly flammable and was used primarily in factories and manufacturing. Transporting it safely required great care, but Captain Brick was well prepared for the task. The first few weeks of the voyage passed without incident. The November seas were relatively calm, and the logbook showed steady progress as they headed toward Europe. The crew worked hard and followed orders. The Brick family settled comfortably into their quarters. Everything seemed perfectly normal, but as the ship approached the Azores, a group of islands in the middle of the Atlantic, something changed. To this day, no one knows exactly what went wrong. Did they encounter a sudden storm? Were they hit by a huge wave? Was it something more mysterious and strange? The only thing we know for sure is that the Mary Celeste was found floating without its crew or passengers. They had disappeared without a trace. The ship was intact, with provisions and still sailing. And so the Mary Celeste became a ghost ship, a floating enigma that has puzzled sailors, historians, and mystery lovers for more than 150 years. On the 4th day of December, 1872, a British sailing ship named Di Gratia was crossing the vast Atlantic Ocean. It had set sail from New York and was headed for Gibraltar. Although it had a similar purpose to the Mary Celeste, both were cargo ships. The Di Gratia had begun its journey several weeks after the Mary Celeste, which meant it was hundreds of miles behind schedule. Captain David Morehouse, the man in charge of the Di Gratia, was no stranger to the sea. He had been sailing the unpredictable waters of the Atlantic for years and was known for his steady hand and keen instincts. That morning, as the Di Gratia approached the Azores, something strange caught the crew's attention. In the distance on the horizon, a ship was sailing aimlessly. Its sails were partially hoisted, but they hung loosely, flapping aimlessly in the wind. The ship did not appear to be moving in any direction or under control, simply being carried along by the ocean current. Captain Morehouse thought the ship might be in trouble, which was not unusual in those days. Heavy storms, accidents, and rough seas often caused ships to sink, leaving dozens of casualties every year. But as the Dei Gratia approached, a sense of unease began to grow. Through a spyglass, Captain Morehouse could see no one on deck. No flags were flying. There were no distress signals, no signs of movement or life on board. When he finally read the name painted on the stern of the ship, he was stunned. It was the Mary Celeste. Captain Morehouse knew that name well. He knew the captain, Benjamin Brix, personally. In fact, the two had dined together before setting out on their respective voyage. They had left the same port only a few days apart. And now here was the Mary Celeste, adrift and apparently abandoned in the middle of the ocean. Concerned about what might have happened to the people on board, Captain Morehouse gave a quick order to send out a boarding party. 2 sailors from the Dei Gratia rowed out to the silent ship and climbed aboard. What they found would baffle and disturb not only them, but the entire world. For generations, the Miak Celeste lay eerily still. The only sounds were the creaking of wooden planks and the gentle lapping of waves against the hull. Inside the ship, everything appeared intact. The cabins and cargo were in order. Barrels of salted meat, fresh water, and other provisions were well stored and untouched. There was enough food to last the crew several months. Personal belongings were still in place. Clothes in drawers, toys that belonged to Sophia, the young daughter of Captain Brick, and even valuables such as gold coins and navigation tools. The ship's cargo, 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol, was mostly still there. Only 9 barrels were found empty, a strange detail that would later spark endless theories about what had happened. In Captain Brick's cabin, the boarding party found the ship's log. The last entry was written on November 25th and showed that the ship was near the Azores at that time. The log entry was calm and routine. Nothing suggested any problems. The weather was normal. The ship was on course. Everything seemed to be going well. However, the crew had disappeared. All the lifeboats were missing, which meant that the crew had abandoned the ship. But why? The Mary Celeste was still seaworthy. There was no damage. There were no signs of fire, flooding, or violence. It did not look like a shipwreck or a crime scene. It seemed as if the people had simply vanished, leaving everything behind in a hurry. The sailors who had boarded the ship couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. It was as if time had suddenly stopped on the Mary Celeste, freezing all signs of life. They sailed the ghostly ship back to Gibraltar, where authorities would launch an investigation to shed light on the mysterious disappearance. But bringing the ship to port was only the beginning. What followed was more than a century of rumors, investigations, and wild speculation. How could a sturdy, well-equipped ship be found sailing alone, with no one on board? What could have led a responsible and experienced captain like Benjamin Bricks to order his crew and his own family to abandon the safety of the ship? Answers have been sought for decades. Some theories are based on science and logic. Others veer into the strange and incredible. One of the simplest ideas is that a natural phenomenon forced the crew to abandon ship. A widely held theory is that of rogue waves, huge, sudden walls of water that can appear out of nowhere due to weather changes or underwater currents. If a wave of this type had crashed into the May and Celeste, it could have flooded part of the ship and frightened the crew, making them believe they were sinking. In a moment of panic, they may have rushed to the lifeboat in the hope of returning when it was safe. But the sea jealously guards its secrets, and the whole truth about what happened aboard the Mar why Celeste remains one of the ocean's greatest mysteries. One theory about the mysterious disappearance of the crew of the Mar y Celeste is that the ship may have collided with a waterspout. A waterspout is like a tornado, but it forms over water. These strange spinning storms can bring strong winds and torrential rain that can cause a ship to rock dangerously and frighten everyone on board. If the crew thought the Mary Celeste was in serious danger, they may have decided to abandon ship quickly and return when the weather improved. Another possible reason for the crew's disappearance is related to the ship's cargo. The Mary Celeste was carrying 171 barrels of industrial alcohol, a highly flammable liquid. Subsequent investigations showed that 9 of those barrels were completely empty. Some researchers believe that the alcohol could have spilled, releasing dangerous vapors into the ship's hold. If a small spark or even a tiny fire had started, it could have caused a sudden burst of flames or even an explosion. Such an event, even if it did not cause extensive damage, could have terrified the crew into thinking that the entire ship was about to explode. In a panic, they may have fled. Interestingly, scientists in the early 2000s conducted experiments to see what would happen if alcohol vapors caught fire in a small, enclosed space. Their tests showed that an explosion could occur without burning the ship or leaving black marks. This could explain why the Mary Celeste was found floating calmly, with no signs of fire, but without its crew. Even with this modern research, one big question remains. If the crew abandoned the ship to escape danger, why didn't they return once it was safe? Some believe that the answer could be related to a conflict among the people on board. There could have been a mutiny. Sailors turning against their captain has happened many times in the history of the sea, but in this case, there isn't much evidence. The ship appeared clean and undamaged when it was found, with no broken items, no blood, and no signs of a fight. There were even valuables such as gold coins. This makes it difficult to believe that robbery or mutiny took place. Pirates have also been mentioned in some theories, but that idea doesn't fit either. Pirates usually steal valuable items, but nothing was taken from the ship. The cargo and supplies were intact. Furthermore, in the 1970s, pirate attacks in the Atlantic Ocean were rare. Strict laws and improved patrols had almost wiped them out. If pirates had attacked, they would probably have taken something or left a mess behind. Then there are the far-fetched and creepy theories. Some say that aliens took the crew away, or that something supernatural happened, such as a curse or a ghostly presence that drove the sailors mad or scared them to death. Most historians don't believe these ideas, but they have become an important part of the Mary Celeste legend. Stories like this fuel the imaginations of authors, filmmakers, and mystery lovers around the world. Some even try to link the ship to the Bermuda Triangle, although the Mary Celeste was far from that area when it was found. One of the more credible ideas is that the crew abandoned the ship due to several small problems that together seemed like a potentially deadly emergency. For example, perhaps the ship's pump was not working properly and the crew thought it was filling with water. If that happened along with bad weather and the strong smell of alcohol fumes, the captain might have thought the ship was going to sink or explode. He may have decided that the best option was to get everyone into the lifeboat and wait nearby until things calmed down. But the lifeboat was never found. That suggests that the crew abandoned the ship but never returned. They could have been swept away by strong ocean currents, capsized in a storm, or died from exposure and lack of water. If this is what really happened, then the decision to abandon ship was a tragic mistake made out of fear and confusion. Since the Mary Celeste was discovered adrift in December 1872, many experts have studied it closely. Historians have examined old ship designs, cargo records, and weather reports from the time. Forensic scientists have examined the objects left behind on board. Each new clue adds a piece to the puzzle, but the main mystery remains. Why did the crew abandon a ship that was still in good condition and clearly still seaworthy? Even the life of the Mary Celeste after the event was not peaceful. After being rescued, it was put back into service with new owners, but the ship was said to be cursed. In 1885, it was deliberately wrecked near Haiti in an insurance scam, bringing a sad end to its turbulent history. However, the story of the Mary Celeste lives on. It has inspired countless books, films, and debates. Its strange mix of facts and unanswered questions continues to fascinate people around the world. The ship has become more than just a ghost ship. It is a symbol of how the sea can both humble and baffle us, even with all our modern tools and knowledge. The ocean continues to hold secrets that we may never fully understand. Was it a natural disaster, a mistake made out of fear, or something beyond our comprehension? Like the missing crew, the real answer is lost somewhere in the depths. It was 1918, and the USS Cyclops, a huge warship, was making its regular voyage across the Atlantic. On board were more than 300 men, along with thousands of tons of cargo. This sturdy ship had been built to withstand the rigors of war, but somewhere between Barbados and Baltimore, the Cyclops disappeared without a trace. There were no distress signals, no wreckage, no survivors. It was as if the ocean had swallowed the entire ship. In the early 20th century, the U.S. Navy was growing, more powerful and ambitious, seeking to extend its reach around the world. It was clear that naval dominance would depend not only on warships, but also on the critical support systems that kept them running. Thus emerged the USS Cyclops, a giant of its time and an essential part of the growing Navy fleet. Commissioned in 1910, the Cyclops was one of 4 Proteus-class collars, designed specifically to carry enormous quantities of coal, the fuel that powered warships in the steam age. At an impressive 242 meters long and 65 meters wide, the Cyclops was a true powerhouse capable of carrying more than 12,000 tons of coal at a time. Its enormous size and cargo capacity made it an engineering marvel, an indispensable tool for the Navy, which depended on coal to fuel its operations across the oceans. But the Cyclops wasn't just big, it also had a cutting-edge design. Built with durability in mind, its steel hull and watertight compartments were made to withstand even the roughest seas. Inside, the holds were carefully organized to maximize loading and unloading efficiency. Although the Cyclops was not built for speed, with a maximum speed of only 15 knots, its endurance and reliability made it ideal for long voyages. When World War I began in 1914, coal was no longer the Navy's only priority as a fuel. Oil quickly became the preferred fuel for warships, rendering coal obsolete. However, this did not render the Cyclops obsolete. On the contrary, its role was adapted. It became a versatile ship that not only transported coal, but also ammunition, supplies, and even troops when necessary. In this new capacity, the Cyclops became a reliable workhorse of the fleet, always ready to deliver essential resources wherever they were needed. In January 1918, the USS Cyclops was given a new mission. It was tasked with transporting a large quantity of manganese, or specifically 10,800 tons, from Brazil to the United States. Manganese was crucial to the war effort, as it was needed to reinforce the steel used to manufacture weapons and machinery. The Cyclops was to begin its journey in Rio de Janeiro, stop in Salvador, Brazil, and continue north to Baltimore, Maryland. The ship left Rio de Janeiro without incident and arrived in Salvador. In mid-February, after loading all its cargo, it set out on the long journey north. Its route would take it through the Caribbean, a region known for its calm seas and predictable weather. It was supposed to be a routine voyage that the Cyclops had made many times before. On March 3, 1918, the ship made a scheduled stop in Barbados to refuel. It was also an opportunity for its captain, Lieutenant Commander George Worley, to file a report. Everything seemed normal. The Cyclops was in good condition and there were no signs of trouble. The ship left Barbados on March 4th, bound for Baltimore, with an estimated arrival time at the end of the month. But somewhere between Barbados and Baltimore, the Cyclops disappeared. No distress signals were sent, no calls for help were made, and there was no trace of it anywhere. The huge ship, along with its 309 passengers, crew members, and valuable cargo, seemed to vanish as if swallowed by the sea itself. The disappearance of the USS Cyclops shocked the U.S. Navy and the entire nation. This was no ordinary ship. It was a large military vessel built to withstand the harsh conditions of the ocean and crewed by experienced sailors. How could such a ship disappear without a trace? The mystery immediately became the focus of intense naval investigations, but without any evidence, everyone was left perplexed and searching for answers. As soon as the ship failed to arrive in Baltimore, the search began. Ships and planes covered thousands of square miles of ocean, following the Cyclops' planned route. Ports on the East Coast, in the Caribbean, and in South America were alerted to be on the lookout for possible wreckage or survivors. Wireless stations, a relatively new technology at the time, were monitored for any signals from the ship. But nothing came, no lifeboats, no debris, no oil slicks. There was no trace of the Cyclops. The disappearance of the ship left everyone baffled. Normally, even in the worst shipwrecks, some kind of debris, such as planks, life jackets, or cargo would wash ashore. But in the case of the Cyclops, the ocean remained eerily silent. It was as if the Atlantic had completely swallowed the ship. What made the situation even more disturbing was the fact that the Cyclops had never sent a distress signal. Although wireless communications in 1918 were still in their infancy, the ship was equipped with a working radio and a trained operator. If there had been time to send a distress call, why hadn't they done so? This raised a disturbing question. Had something happened to the ship so suddenly that the crew had not had time to react? More than 100 years have passed since the disappearance of the USS Cyclops, but the mystery remains as intriguing as ever. With new technological advances and a renewed interest in maritime history, investigators are re-examining the case in the hope of discovering new evidence or developing new theories that will finally explain what happened to the ship. Researchers are re-examining the case in the hope of uncovering new evidence or developing new theories that will finally explain what happened to the ship. One of the most recent technological advances that has sparked renewed interest in the mystery of the Cyclops is the use of deep-sea exploration tools. These tools include remote-controlled vehicles and sophisticated sonar mapping systems. These advances have allowed researchers to explore parts of the ocean that were previously unreachable. Although no confirmed remains of the Cyclops have been found, these technologies have helped uncover dozens of previously unknown shipwrecks in the same area, proving that even the largest ships can remain hidden in the vast depths of the ocean. Some modern theories about the Cyclops focus on possible structural problems with the ship itself. Historical records suggest that the ship's design may have made it unstable when carrying heavy loads. The Cyclops was carrying manganese ore, which is very heavy and prone to shifting if not properly secured. Even a slight shift in the cargo could have made the ship unstable, causing it to capsize quickly. This theory explains the absence of distress signals. If the ship had capsized or broken apart suddenly, the crew would not have had time to react. Another line of investigation focuses on Captain George Worley, whose leadership has always been the subject of debate. Worley's erratic behavior and questionable decisions during previous voyages have led some to wonder if he may have played a role in the Cyclops' disappearance. Some witnesses to his previous voyages described him as harsh and unpredictable, and rumors about his German ancestry fueled suspicion at a time of heightened wartime paranoia. However, there is no solid evidence to suggest that Worley deliberately sabotaged the ship or acted with malice. More recently, studies of war records have reignited the theory that enemy action may have been responsible for the Cyclops' disappearance. During World War I, German submarines operated in the Atlantic and attacked Allied ships. Although there are no confirmed reports linking a submarine to the Cyclops, it is possible that the ship's disappearance was the result of an unrecorded attack. German naval records from the period are incomplete, leaving room for speculation. However, the lack of wreckage or survivors makes this theory less likely. Normally, even after a submarine attack, some trace of the ship would be expected to surface. The Bermuda Triangle theory, although often dismissed by scientists, continues to captivate the public imagination. The Cyclops disappeared in an area known for its mysterious disappearances, and some have speculated that the ship fell victim to a strange phenomenon unique to that region. From methane hydrate eruptions to rogue waves and magnetic anomalies, several natural explanations have been suggested. Although most of these ideas remain unproven, they add an extra layer of mystery to the story of the Cyclops. One of the most interesting modern theories is that the sinking of the Cyclops was due to a combination of factors. A small structural failure exacerbated by the heavy load and possible rough seas could have triggered a chain of events that led to its rapid sinking. This theory suggests that the ship's disappearance may not have been due to a single disaster, but to a series of unfortunate circumstances that acted together. The mystery of the Cyclops has also inspired efforts to locate its remains. Organizations specializing in maritime archaeology and underwater exploration have suggested specific searches along the ship's probable route using the most advanced mapping technology. However, the vastness of the search area and the depth of the Atlantic Ocean pose enormous challenges. Despite these difficulties, researchers remain hopeful that the mystery of the Cyclops will one day be solved. Until then, the USS Cyclops remains a haunting reminder of the ocean's ability to hide its secrets. Whether the ship lies intact on the seabed or was torn apart by the elements, its story continues to inspire curiosity and speculation. For now, we are left with the questions, theories, and fascination of one of the greatest maritime mysteries in history. Another ship, the Guaratag, often called the Titanic of the Southern Hemisphere, mysteriously disappeared off the coast of South Africa. Unlike the Cyclops, the Wark was a luxury passenger ship designed for comfort and elegance. It was considered a symbol of modern innovation and progress, a vessel built to rule the seas. However, in 1909, during its second voyage, the Guarata disappeared without a trace, taking with it 211 passengers and crew members. What happened to the Guarata? Was it due to a design flaw, a violent storm, or something darker? Like the Cyclops, the Guarata left no wreckage, no survivors, and no clear answers. Let's explore the story of the Guarata, a ship that set sail with high hopes but was never seen again. At the dawn of the 20th century, Australia was brimming with optimism. The economy was growing, new trade routes were opening up, and demand for luxury travel was on the rise. This changing landscape connected Australia to the rest of the world in new ways. Ships were no longer just a means of transporting goods. They were symbols of progress, representing modern pride and achievement, linking continents and offering new opportunities to people. One of the brightest stars of this era was the Guarata, a ship built to reflect the ambition and elegance of its time. Built in 1908 by the Blue Anchor Line, it was a marvel of Edwardian engineering. At 465 feet long and weighing over 9,000 tons, the Guarata was the largest and most advanced ship ever commissioned by the company. Its design sought to balance luxury and functionality. On deck, first-class passengers enjoyed a level of luxury that rivaled the best ocean liners of the time. Ornate dining rooms, luxurious lounges, and modern cabins catered to the wealthy elite, while second-class accommodations offered comfortable and pleasant spaces for less affluent travelers. But the Guarata was not just a passenger ship. Below deck, its enormous cargo holds were designed to carry Australia's most valuable exports: wool, meat, and precious metals, making it an essential link in the country's trade network with Europe. Its combination of grandeur and utility earned it the nickname the Titanic of the Southern Hemisphere, a ship that symbolized the pinnacle of craftsmanship. Her maiden voyage from London to Sydney in late 1908 was a success. Passengers were delighted with her luxurious interiors and smooth sailing. The Blue Anchor Line had every reason to celebrate its flagship, which soon became popular with travelers and merchants alike. In July 1909, the Guarata was ready for her second voyage. She set sail from Sydney with 21 passengers and crew on board. The ship was loaded with cargo, bound for European markets, and her route included stops in Durban and Cape Town before heading out into the Atlantic Ocean. As it sailed across the Indian Ocean, the mood was optimistic. Passengers enjoyed the ship's amenities and the company of their fellow travelers. However, as the Guarata approached the southern coast of Africa, concerns began to arise. Some passengers reported that the ship felt unstable in the rough seas and was listing more than usual. Others spoke of an uneasy feeling they couldn't explain. The crew dismissed these warnings at the time, but they would later take on a much more sinister meaning. On July 26, 1909, the Guarata set sail from Durban bound for Cape Town. This would be its last voyage. Everything seemed normal. The passengers and crew were eager to reach Cape Town, a key stop on their journey, before continuing north to London. The weather was mild. The ship was well stocked, and there were no signs of trouble. For those on board, it seemed like another quiet stretch of the voyage. At around 6 p.m. on July 27th, the Guarata was sighted by the McIntyre, a freighter following the same route. The two ships exchanged their usual signals, and the Guarata appeared to be in good condition, sailing steadily along the South African coast. This brief sighting would be the last confirmed sighting of the ship. After that, it disappeared from view, and no one would ever see it again. When the Guarata failed to arrive in Cape Town, the initial reaction was one of caution. Delays at sea were not uncommon in 1909, especially along the southern coast of Africa, where unpredictable weather and strong currents posed constant challenges to sailors. However, as days turned into weeks with no news of the ship, concern turned to alarm. Something had gone terribly wrong. The Blue Anchor Line, owner of the Guarata, quickly launched a Search operation. Ships from its fleet, as well as other vessels operating in the area, were redirected to search the waters between Durban and Cape Town. The search covered hundreds of miles of treacherous coastline and focused on the area where the Mintire clan had last seen the Guarata. Crews were ordered to look for wreckage, lifeboats, or survivors, but they found nothing. The Needle Current, one of the strongest ocean currents in the world, compounded the problem. It flows southward along the eastern coast of Africa and joins the cold waters of the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, creating a volatile stretch of ocean. Shipwrecks in this area usually leave little trace, as debris is swept away or dragged into the depths of underwater canyons. By the end of August 1909, hopes of finding survivors were fading. Despite the lack of evidence, rumors began to spread. Some claimed to have seen strange lights at sea, suggesting that the Guarata might still be afloat, drifting aimlessly with its passengers and crew alive but stranded. Others speculated that the ship had run aground on a reef or a hidden island, waiting to be rescued. Theories range from the plausible to the fantastic, but none offered any real answers. In September, the Blue Anchor Line organized a second search, this time with the steamship Wakefield. The Wakefield followed the Guarata's route, stopping at all dangerous locations and searching for signs of the missing ship. Once again, the search proved fruitless. No wreckage, no bodies, no clues. The Guaratag had disappeared as if the ocean had swallowed it whole. Over the years, several more attempts have been made to locate the ship. Modern technologies such as sonar mapping and underwater exploration have been used to scan the seabed off South Africa. However, the difficult conditions in the region have made these searches extremely difficult. The waters near the Needles Bank are littered with shipwrecks, some dating back hundreds of years, making it difficult to distinguish the Guarata from other lost ships. To this day, the Guarata has never been found. Its disappearance remains one of the most enduring mysteries in maritime history, a haunting reminder of how vast and unpredictable the ocean can be. The mystery of the Guarata has captivated historians, maritime experts, and enthusiasts for over a century. With no wreckage or survivors to offer answers, the ship's fate has sparked countless theories, some plausible, others downright fantastical. One of the most widely accepted explanations is that the ship, the Guarata, had serious design flaws. Reports from its maiden voyage in 1908 described the ship as unstable and prone to capsizing in rough seas. Passengers and crew members noted that the ship seemed too heavy, with a high center of gravity that made it more prone to capsizing. The Guarata was ambitiously designed to combine luxury accommodations with large cargo holds. Some experts believe that this combination made it unstable, especially when fully loaded. On its last voyage, the Guarata was carrying a heavy load, including large quantities of bait, coal, and heavy machinery. If the cargo shifted in rough seas, the ship could capsize quickly, leaving no time to send a distress signal or evacuate. The waters off the southern coast of Africa are known for their unpredictability. The Agulhas Current, combined with strong winds and storms, can create giant waves, walls of water up to 30 meters high that appear suddenly and without warning. These waves are powerful enough to sink even the strongest ships, and the Guarata would have been especially vulnerable if it was already unstable. A rogue wave could have hit the Guarata with great force, sweeping it away and dragging it to the bottom of the ocean before the crew could do anything to stop it. This idea is supported by reports from other ships that encountered severe conditions in the same area at around the same time as the Guarata's disappearance. Although the Guarata's captain, Joshua Allure, was an experienced sailor, human error cannot be completely ruled out. Navigating the dangerous South African waters requires constant attention, and even a small mistake could have led to disaster. If the Guarata got too close to the coast or encountered an unknown hazard, it could have run aground or capsized. Some stories suggest that Captain Allure may have been overly confident in the ship's abilities, dismissing concerns about its stability. Others point to poor communication or faulty equipment as factors that may have contributed to the tragedy, although less likely. Some people have suggested the possibility of sabotage or foul play. The Guarata was carrying valuable cargo, including precious metals, which could have made it a target for pirates. However, there is no evidence to support this idea, and piracy in the region was rare at the time. The disappearance of the Guarata has even given rise to more far-fetched theories, such as the idea that the ship was swallowed by supernatural force or disappeared into another dimension. Some people have linked the ship's fate to stories about the Bermuda Triangle, despite the fact that the ship disappeared thousands of miles away. These theories, although lacking scientific evidence, demonstrate people's enduring fascination with maritime mysteries and the human need to explain the inexplicable. The simplest explanation is that the Guarata sank to the bottom of the ocean and its remains have not been found because the area is very difficult to search. The Needles Bank is a dangerous area with strong currents, deep canyons, and a history of shipwrecks. It is possible that the Guarata lies in one of these canyons, hidden from view, waiting to be discovered. Despite numerous searches and theories, no one knows for sure what happened to the Guarata. Its disappearance is a stark reminder of the ocean's power to keep its secrets, even in an age of advanced technology. For the families of the 2011 people who were on board, the lack of answers is a haunting legacy. More than a century later, the mystery of the Guarata's fate remains unsolved. The story of the Guarata is not only about what may have happened to the ship, but also about what we have learned since then. It has changed the way we think about ship design and keeps researchers searching for answers in the depths of the sea, even today. The disappearance of the Guarata forced people to ask difficult questions about shipbuilding. In those days, engineers pushed the limits, designing and building larger and more ambitious ships that could achieve more than ever before. But sometimes ambition can overcome caution. The Guarata was designed to combine luxury with practicality, serving as both a passenger liner and a cargo ship. However, that balance may have been its downfall. Reports from its maiden voyage already pointed to problems. People said that the ship seemed to list too much in heavy seas and appeared unstable, as if it were overloaded. After its disappearance, these early concerns became a warning about what not to do when designing ships. Engineers learned the hard way and began to pay much more attention to the importance of weight distribution and stability. The Guarata tragedy also highlighted how dangerous it is to ignore early warning signs or take shortcuts. It is one thing to hear that a ship does not feel right in the water, but it is quite another to ignore those concerns and send it back out onto unpredictable seas. The story of the Guarata reminds us how quickly things can go wrong. The Guarata has earned a place in the history books of maritime mysteries, often mentioned alongside other famous disappearances such as the May Celeste and the Flying Dutchman. What makes its story so fascinating is the complete lack of evidence. No wreckage, no lifeboats, nothing. It's as if it simply disappeared. This kind of mystery captivates the imagination like few other stories can. Over the years, its disappearance has inspired many books, documentaries, and investigations. With each passing decade, interest in its story grows. Its story is not just about a ship. It is a reminder of how vast and unpredictable the ocean is. Even in modern times, with all our technology, the sea can still hold secrets. The search for the Guarata has not stopped, and today's technology provides researchers with tools that would have been unimaginable in 1909. We now have advanced sonar systems, remote control vehicles, ROVs, and even underwater drones that can map the ocean floor with incredible precision. These tools have already brought to light wrecks that were thought to be lost forever, so there is hope that the Guarata can also be found. One of the most promising techniques is sonar mapping. By scanning the seabed near the Needles Bank, the last place where the Guarata was seen, researchers can detect shapes or anomalies that could suggest the existence of a wreck. The waters off South Africa are very difficult to explore, with strong currents and deep underwater canyons. But sonar can overcome these obstacles. If a promising target is identified, they can be sent down to investigate. These underwater robots can capture high-definition images and even recover artifacts, giving researchers a better view of what might be down there. The Guarata could still be resting intact on the seabed, waiting to be found. New technologies, such as machine learning and artificial intelligence, AI, are also changing the way searches are conducted. These tools can analyze large amounts of sonar data and detect patterns that could point to a shipwreck. Instead of searching blindly, researchers can focus on areas with the highest chance of yielding results. However, even with all these technological advances, finding the Guarata is no easy task. The Kuroshio current is one of the strongest in the world, capable of dragging debris miles away from the original site of the sinking. In addition, the seabed in the area is littered with other wrecks, some of which have been there for centuries, making it difficult to tell which is which. Another problem is funding. Deep-sea searches are expensive, and without solid leads, it can be difficult to convince governments and private organizations to invest in such an uncertain venture. Despite these obstacles, the Guarata remains a tempting target for researchers. What draws people back to its story is more than just the mystery, it is the human element. The 21 people on board were not just passengers or crew members, but families, workers, and travelers, each with their own dreams and stories. Their disappearance is a powerful reminder of the relentless nature of the ocean and how little control we have over its immense power. Their story also touches on something universal, our fascination with the unknown. How could such a large ship disappear? What happened in its final moments? These questions haunt maritime historians and resonate with anyone who has ever wondered about the mysteries hidden beneath the sea. Although we don't have the answers yet, the search for the Guarata continues. Each new technology brings us a little closer to solving the puzzle. Someday we will finally discover the truth about what happened to the Titanic of the Southern Hemisphere. Until then, the Guarata will remain a symbol of the ocean's ability to keep its secrets hidden.